The last class meeting before the college entrance exam. The class beauty suddenly jumped onto the desk, holding up a bottle of sleeping pills. Trust me, the gods will give us the answers. Swallow 10 pills before entering the exam hall, and everyone will get into Chingbi. Anyone who doesn't buy them doesn't believe in me, and we'll all ostracize them. The whole class stared at the bottle full of white pills, a glint of madness flashing in their eyes. In my past life, I smashed the bottle, warning them that it would only make them fall asleep in the exam hall. As a result, I was beaten to death, my body filled with cement, and sunk to the bottom of the river. Returning to the day the pills were handed out, I was the first to rush forward. I'll buy them. 20 pills. I want to be the top scorer. The homeroom teacher had just left when Xiang jumped onto the desk. She was wearing a faded school uniform skirt, her slender legs swinging, a sickly flush on her face. Baby has magic pills. Her voice was soft and sticky, deliberately dragging out the last syllable as if she was acting cute. The entire class's gaze instantly focused on her. Fervent and expectant, she pulled out a transparent plastic bottle from her backpack filled with white pills. If you take the baby's sleeping pills, the gods will give you the answers. We swallow 10 pills before entering the exam hall, and everyone will get into Chingbi. Anyone who doesn't buy them doesn't believe in the baby, and the whole class will ostracize them. Her eyes swept over everyone. Class monitor Zaoing was the first to stand up, pulling out 100 yuan from his pocket and raising it high. I believe in the class beauty. I'll buy. Give me one. The classroom went completely insane. Desks and chairs were knocked askew as people frantically surged toward the podium, waving their money. I sat in the corner, the blood in my body turning cold inch by inch. I had seen this scene before. In my past life, I was the one who smashed Xiang's pill bottle right here. I told them they were just high-concentration sleeping pills, and taking them would only make them sleep through the exam. What greeted me was Joe's first punch. He hit me in the face, and my glasses flew off. Then came the kicks and punches from the whole class. Chowing stood on the desk looking down at me, with a sweet smile on her lips. She doesn't believe in the baby. She wants to stop us from getting into college. Hit her. I was beaten to death by them in the classroom. They wrapped my body in black garbage bags, filled it with cement on a rainy night, and sank it into the icy riverbed. The river water poured into my mouth and nose. The cement solidified my limbs. That suffocation and despair, I remember it even in death. Now I'm back to this day. When Xiang handed out the medicine, looking at the class beauty on the podium, basking in everyone's adoration, I smiled. I stood up from my seat and pushed past the people blocking my way. Under everyone's astonished gaze, I was the first to rush to the front of the podium. Chowing saw me, froze for a moment, and a flicker of vigilance and disgust flashed in her eyes. In my past life, I was the only one in the class who didn't play along with her baby persona. Xiang shoved me aside. Such and get lost. If you don't have money to buy, don't cause trouble. I ignored him, just stared intently at Xiaoing, my eyes filled with a fervor. I didn't even recognize myself. I pulled out all the money from my meal card, 23 yuan point 70, and slapped it on the table. I'll buy 20 pills. The entire classroom fell silent instantly. Everyone looked at me as if I were crazy. Chowing was stunned, too, her always watery eyes full of shock. I grinned, forcing a smile uglier than crying. How could 10 pills be enough? I'm going to be the top scholar. I looked at Xiang word by word, my voice, but clear enough for everyone to hear. The shock on Xiaoying's face slowly faded, replaced by a strange, approving sweet smile. She personally poured out the pills from the bottle, without counting, a full handful, and pressed them into my hand. Suching is truly a great helper for the baby. The top scholar must be you. I clenched the pill in my palm, its icy touch keeping me utterly clear-headed. The looks Ming and the other students gave me shifted from hostility to confusion, and then from confusion to a kind of recognition that said, "So, you're one of us, too." I returned to my seat, lowering my head amid their frenzied rush to buy, staring at the white pill in my hand. This time, I wanted to see what a spectacular sight it would be when the whole class fell asleep during the exam. I'll send you all off myself. My lavish spending on the pills was like a stone thrown into the fervent lake. Ripples spreading outward. I became the new eye of the storm. Xiaoyi's pills were quickly sold out. Those who missed out beat their chests and regret, while those who got them cherished them like treasures. Zhou Ming, as Chao Ying's most loyal supporter, took on the role of discipline monitor. His words carried weight, and the classroom soon fell silent, leaving only a strange, tense, quiet mixed with anticipation. The bell rang for the end of class. Qiang was swept away by a crowd of people. Jiaoying, however, walked straight toward me. He stood by my desk, his tall figure casting a shadow that enveloped me completely. In my past life, it was this very shadow that accompanied me in my final moments. Suching, he began, his tone laced with scrutiny. I didn't look up slowly and deliberately. I packed my 20 miracle pills into a small paper packet torn from a workbook. What's up? Why did you suddenly start believing? His voice was low, filled with suspicion. I could feel several other gazes fixed on me, probing. My hand paused for a moment, then I continued my actions, folding the paper packet and tucking it into the deepest part of my pencil case. Only after finishing all this did I lift my head to meet his gaze. My eyes were calm, even a little numb. What else could it be? I retorted. He froze. I leaned back in my chair looking at him, and also at the classmates behind him, who were pricking up their ears. I studied for 3 years, worked my ass off, and what happened? Last mock exam, I dropped out of the top 20 in the class. My dad said, if I don't get into a top-tier university, I might as well drop out and get married. My mom said, girls don't need that much education. Better to find a good husband early. My voice was very soft. No accusation, no sadness, just the exhaustion of stating facts. These words were half true, half false. My parents do favor sons over daughters, but not to that extent. Yet, for someone like Ming, who prides himself on knowing everything and loves to meddle in others' family affairs, this was the perfect explanation. Sure enough, the suspicion on Xiao Ming's face softened. A look of understanding dawned in his eyes, and even a hint of condescending sympathy crept in. So, that's how it is, he murmured. I continued. I don't want to get married. I don't want to spend my whole life stuck in that small county town. I've tried, and I can't make it on my own. Now there's a path in front of me. A path that can take me to Qingbei. Why wouldn't I take it? I looked at him, my gaze shifting from numbness to intensity. Hang, if it were you, what would you choose? He was left speechless by my question, opening his mouth, but ultimately, just patting me on the shoulder, his tone heavy. Suching, don't worry, we're all in the same boat now. Chao Ying's miracle drug will surely lead us to success. He turned and walked away, his back carrying his sense of mission, as if he had saved a lost lamb. I watched him return to his seat and quietly explain something to those around him. Soon, the probing glances directed at me vanished, replaced by sympathy and acceptance. I had succeeded. I had found the perfect justification for my reckless actions. Desperation, a pitiful failure, pushed to the brink by reality, with no choice but to place her hopes in ghosts and gods. This identity was safe. During the evening's self-study session, Qiang returned. Instead of going to her own seat, she walked straight over to me, pulled out the chair next to mine, and sat down. Suching, she called out to me, her voice syrupy sweet. The classroom was very quiet. Everyone pretended to be studying, but every ear was tuned into us. How are you feeling? She asked, blinking her big eyes as if concerned about a patient just out of the ICU. I knew she was testing me. Zhang's report wasn't enough to completely dispel her doubts. I took the small paper packet out of my pencil case, placed it on the desk, and carefully pushed it toward her. Chowing, I said, mimicking her tone, making my voice soft and gentle. I'm a little scared. The smile in her eyes deepened as she leaned forward, adopting an intimate posture. What's there to be afraid of? The baby is here. I'm worried the effect won't be strong enough. I looked into her eyes and said slowly, word by word, I want to be the top scholar. I'm not joking. Are 20 pills really enough? What if the answers the gods give are incomplete? My words left Chowing completely stunned. She might have imagined that I would doubt, be afraid, or back out, but she never expected me to complain that the effect wasn't strong enough. Her expression shifted from shock to surprise, and finally to an uncontrollable ecstasy. The way she looked at me was as if she were admiring her most perfect creation. She grabbed my hand, holding it tightly, her nails digging into my flesh. Suching, you never cease to amaze me. Don't worry. She leaned close to my ear and whispered in a voice only the two of you could hear. As long as your faith is strong enough, the gods will grant you everything. Her breath brushed against my ear, warm yet carrying a serpentine chill. I looked at her face, flushed with excitement, and felt nothing but coldness inside. I knew I had already secured the core ticket to this mad party, but there was one more thing I needed to do. Something that would make this party impossible to stop. I lifted my head, looking at Chowing, and then at the entire class. I don't believe it. My voice was not loud, but it was clear enough, unless someone can prove it to me. Prove that the immortals will really come. My words struck like a thunderbolt, exploding in the deathly silent classroom. Everyone stopped writing and stared at me in shock. Even the smile on Cheering's face froze. Suching, what do you mean? Zhaoing was the first to stand up, glaring at me. How dare you doubt our class flower? I'm not doubting the class flower. I shook my head, my gaze sweeping across the faces of my classmates. Some angry, some uneasy. I'm doubting whether my own faith is sincere enough. I took back the paper packet, clutching it tightly in my palm, my hand trembling slightly from agitation. Over 200 yuan. A month's worth of my meal money. My life. My future. All staked on these pills. I'm scared. Terrified. Afraid of what I'll do if this fails. My voice cracked, with tears, and my eyes instantly reened. This fragile, desperate display successfully doused Jiaming's anger. People's expressions shifted from fury to wavering, and many faces revealed a fear similar to mine. Yes, those weren't ordinary pills. They were the all-or-nothing bets they had placed. Then what do you want to do? Chowing spoke up, regaining control of the situation, her voice as gentle as if soothing a frightened kitten. I lifted my head, looking at her through tear-filled eyes. Unless someone can prove it to me, prove that after taking the medicine, the immortal really will come tonight. Right now. Let's find someone. Have them take a pill now. And tomorrow morning, we'll see if they can bring back the immortal's answer. If just one person succeeds, I'll believe it, and I'll swallow all 20 of these pills. I raised the paper packet in my hand as if taking an oath. The proposal was insane, but it carried a deadly allure. If they could truly verify the medicine's effects in advance, then, when they walked into the exam hall tomorrow, they wouldn't be gambling. They'd be collecting a prize. A murmur of whispers spread through the classroom. Everyone's eyes flickered, searching for affirmation in each other's faces. But who would be the test subject? No one dared. What if it failed? What if the immortal didn't come? What if the medicine really was just a sleeping pill? The sliver of rationality buried beneath the frenzy surfaced at that moment. Xiao Ying's expression turned somewhat grim. She hadn't expected me to put her in this position. The proposal was perfect. Fitting her logic of sincerity brings results. But carrying it out could cause her entire myth to collapse on the spot. She couldn't refuse. Once she did, it would be an admission of guilt. She also couldn't just pick anyone. If that person messed up, she'd be finished, too. Just as she was caught in a dilemma, I looked at Ming Monitor. You are the most devoted follower of the class, Beauty. Your heart must be the most sincere. How about you be the first one? Zhaoing's face instantly turned pale. He opened his mouth and looked at Chowing for help. Chowing shot me a hateful glare. She knew I had passed the ball back to her, and she had to protect Zhaoing, her top general. When the atmosphere reached a freezing point, I slowly stood up. I opened the paper packet, and under everyone's stunned gaze, poured out a white pill. Since no one dares, I will. My voice was not loud, but every word struck the hearts of those present. I looked at them, my eyes filled with the determination of burning one's bridges. I have more to lose than any of you, so this proof must be made by me. I gave no one time to react. I picked up the water glass on the table, tilted my head back, and swallowed the pill. Gulp. The sound of swallowing was especially clear in the silent classroom. Suching chowing and Zhao exclaimed simultaneously. I placed the empty water cup heavily on the table, producing a dull thud. Then I smiled. All right, wait for my good news tomorrow morning. If I come back with the immortal's answers, it means we'll all succeed. If I don't come back, I paused, sweeping my gaze across their terrified faces. Then the medicine in your hands is all useless. With that, I picked up my bag and walked out of the classroom in a deathly silence. I could feel dozens of gazes behind me like nails boring into my back. Some shocked, some doubtful, some fearful, but mostly a kind of desperate hope, as if they had been strapped onto my chariot, with no turning back. Stepping out of the teaching building, the evening wind felt cool against my face. I walked to a secluded corner, bent over, and stuck my fingers deep into my throat. A violent wave of nausea hit me, and I vomited the water I had drunk in the pill, that hadn't even had time to dissolve into the dark grass. Rinsing my mouth with clean water, I straightened up and looked toward the classroom. The lights were blazing brightly. I knew no one would sleep there tonight. They would wait all night, waiting for my miracle to descend, and I would personally fabricate the most beautiful dream for them. When I got home, I didn't review my lessons. Instead, I dug out a dusty collection of math problems from the deepest corner of my bookshelf. In my past life, during the last math class before the exam, the teacher had written a problem on the blackboard that he believed was highly likely to appear as the final big question. That problem came from this collection, a difficult one about spatial vectors and solid geometry that I had never been able to solve. I flipped to that page, looking at the familiar problem and the dense solution steps beneath it. In my past life, I had never fully understood it until my death. But now I didn't need to understand it. I just needed to memorize it word for word. The next day, I deliberately arrived 10 minutes late. As I pushed open the classroom door, the entire class snapped their heads up, dozens of bloodshot eyes fixed on me. My face was pale, my lips chapped, and dark circles hung heavily under my eyes. I looked as if I hadn't slept all night. Yet, I was in a strange state of manic energy. Without a word, I walked straight to my seat, pulled a crumpled piece of draft paper from my backpack, and tossed it onto the desk. Then, I slumped onto the table as if all my strength had been drained in an instant. I dreamed of an immortal. My voice was broken, golden light, so many numbers flying around. Jiamoing was the first to rush over, snatching up the draft paper. It was covered in scrolled formulas and numbers, the complete solution to that problem. What is this? He asked, puzzled. Just then, the math teacher, Wang Jianjun, walked into the classroom, with his lesson plan under his arm. He immediately spotted the draft paper in Zhaoing's hand, and the group of students gathered around him. Class has started. What are you all huddling for? He frowned. Ying, bring me what you're holding. Zhaoing hesitated for a moment, then handed over the draft paper. Teacher Wang took it and glanced at it, his expression instantly changing. This problem. He adjusted his glasses, staring at the draft paper in shock, then looked up at me, slumped over the desk. Where did you get the solution? His voice trembled with disbelief. Teacher Wang's voice struck like a stone thrown into water, silencing the entire classroom's clamor. His hand holding the draft paper was shaking, not from anger, but from excitement. This solution is so ingenious, he murmured to himself, as if completely forgetting where he was. Setting up a coordinate system with spatial vectors isn't hard, but the entry point of this auxiliary plane and the parameter settings, this isn't a line of thought a high school student could come up with. He lifted his head, his gaze sweeping across the class like a torch. Who did this? Step forward. Zhou Ming stepped forward, pointing at me, slumped over the desk, his voice carrying a pride and fervor he himself didn't notice. Teacher Wang, it's Suching. It's the immortal. The immortal gave it to her in a dream. Teacher Wang's brows were tightly knitted. He looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and scrutiny. Suching, stand up. I was nudged by my desk mate and slowly lifted my head, my eyes dazed and my face pale as paper. Teacher. My voice was weak. Did you really do this? He held up the paper and asked me. I looked at the paper, shook my head, then nodded. I don't know. Last night, I took Chia's medicine, and then I had a dream. The dream was full of golden light, with countless numbers and lines flying through my mind. When I woke up, this paper was in my hand. My head hurt so much, I can't remember anything clearly. My performance was flawless, an ordinary student dazed and confused after being overwhelmed by a massive influx of information. The expression on Teacher Wang's face grew even more puzzled. He looked down at the draft paper repeatedly, then back at me, as if trying to find traces of a lie on my face. But all he saw was exhaustion and bewilderment. Chiang walked over at just the right moment, shielding me like a mother hen protecting her chicks. Teacher Wang, please don't pressure Suching anymore. Her voice carried just the right blend of gentleness and resolve. Suching sacrificed herself to prove the efficacy of the divine medicine, and she needs rest now. Teacher Wang's gaze finally lifted from the draft paper and landed on Chiang, his eyes filled with disbelief and reproach. Chiang, what exactly are you two up to? On the eve of the college entrance exam, instead of studying, you're engaging in this futile superstition. This isn't superstition. It's a miracle. This time it wasn't Choing who spoke, but the class's academic monitor, a bespectacled boy usually known only for burying himself in practice problems. His face was flushed with excitement. Teacher Wang, be honest with yourself. Could Suching have solved this problem on her own? Forget Suching. In our class. No. In our entire school. Who else could have solved it using this method? Teacher Wang was left speechless. He knew. Of course. This method of solving the problem went far beyond the scope of the college entrance exam syllabus, more akin to the level of university mathematics or competition-level thinking. So there's no other explanation except for immortals. The study monitor raised his arm and shouted, "Right! No other explanation. We all believe in the class beauty. We believe in immortals." The atmosphere in the classroom was ignited once again. Teacher Wang looked at his frenzied students, his face pale with anger, but helpless. He couldn't explain the draft paper in front of him with science. Finally, he took a deep breath, as if making a difficult decision. He walked up to the podium, used a magnet to stick the draft paper onto the blackboard, and said, "Everyone, quiet down since you're so eager to know. I'll explain to you where the divine part of this problem really lies." He picked up a piece of chalk and turned to face the blackboard. At that moment, he was no longer a homeroom teacher trying to correct his students' thoughts, but an enthusiast who had stumbled upon a peerless martial arts manual. The chalk danced across the blackboard. Formulas and auxiliary lines flowed from his hand, identical to the content on the draft paper. The classroom fell into dead silence. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the blackboard. They watched as a blurry dream took shape in Teacher Wang's hands, becoming a clear, rigorous, and irrefutable truth. Sunlight streamed in through the window, and chalk dust danced in the beams of light sacred dust. When Teacher Wang wrote the final solution character and tossed aside the chalk stub, he let out a long sigh of relief. Perfect! It's a work of art. He turned around and looked at us, his eyes filled with awe, and as the entire class stared at the problem-solving steps on the blackboard, which seemed like an oracle, and then looked at me lying on the desk, with Chowing gently stroking my back. The last shred of rationality in their eyes completely collapsed. The way they looked at me was no longer as a classmate, but as a living, walking miracle among mortals. After that math class, my status in the class underwent a dramatic transformation. I was no longer that aloof and unsociable Suching. I had become Saint of Suching. During breaks, my desk was always surrounded by people. They didn't dare to speak to me, only gazing at me with reverence and envy. Some secretly placed milk and bread on my desk, while others picked up the scratch paper I had thrown into the trash and collected it like a treasure. Chowing became the biggest winner. Sitting beside me, she basked in everyone's adoration as if the halo around me was bestowed by her. See everyone, this is what happens when you believe in the baby, she declared smugly, her voice syrupy. Chowing, on the other hand, took out his little notebook and started a new job. He no longer recorded who disrespected the gods, but began registering merits yesterday, giving the class beauty $100 recorded as one merit. Just now delivering milk to Saint Suching recorded as half a merit. After the college entrance exam, rewards will be distributed based on merits, and the gods will allocate different scores according to the merit ledger. This rhetoric was utterly absurd. Yet in that environment, everyone believed it. Without a doubt, the frenzy continued to ferment, and I, the one who ignited this madness, merely watched coldly from the sidelines. I needed to add more fuel to the fire, a fire that would burn them all to ashes. During the lunch break, the classroom was very quiet. Most people were lying on their desks, not sleeping, but meditating. They imitated me, trying to communicate with the gods in their dreams. I slowly woke up and let out a weak sigh. Chowing immediately leaned in and asked, with concern, "Suching, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell again?" I shook my head, a deep regret written on my face. Chowing, I regret it. Regret. Chowing was puzzled, and a few classmates, who were pretending to sleep, perked up their ears. I grabbed her hand, my eyes filled with pain and longing. I regret only taking one pill yesterday. My voice was very soft, but loud enough for those around to hear. Chowing was stunned. The god only gave me the answer to one question. That question was difficult, very impressive, but it was just one question. What if? What if I had taken 10 pills yesterday, or 20? Would the god have stuffed the entire math exam? No. All the exam papers for every subject into my head. My voice trembled with excitement, and a greedy gleam flickered in my eyes. These words were like a devil's bait, precisely cast into everyone's hearts. Yes, 1 pill for one final exam question. So, what about 10 pills? 20 pills? Would that mean becoming the top scholar? The future? Qi-Ying's breathing grew rapid. She looked at me as if I were a prophet who had opened the door to a new world for her. Her original plan was just to have everyone take the pills for peace of mind, then sleep through the exam, and finally rely on the principle of the law cannot punish the many. But now I had given her an even crazier and more tempting blueprint, a quantifiable shortcut to success. She suddenly stood up and walked to the podium. "Wake up, everyone." She slammed the table, her voice sharp. Everyone looked up, dazed. Saint Suching has just received a new divine revelation. She pointed at me and announced loudly, "The effect of the divine pill is related to the dosage. The more you take, the more sincere your heart, and the more divine enlightenment you receive, the higher your score. Our previous plan was too conservative." She spread her arms wide like a true cult leader. 10 pills are just the baseline for a bachelor's degree. If you want to get into a top university, a 985, or even Tsinghua and Peking University, we need to show our sincerity. 15 pills, 20 pills, or even more. We're not gambling. We're offering our devotion to the gods. The classroom fell into a deathly silence, then erupted into a frenzy, more intense than any before. "I want to increase my dose. Give me 20 pills. I'll pay 500. Give me 25 pills. The top scholar is mine. No one else can take it." They've gone mad, completely mad. They are no longer students struggling for a ticket to college. They have become a group of gamblers driven by greed, wildly increasing their stakes under my guidance. I sat in my seat, watching Chowing on the podium, brimming with confidence, and looking at my classmates below, arguing fiercely over a few white pills. Slowly, a smile spread across my face. How wonderful! The greedier you are, the deeper you sleep. The gates of hell have already been opened for you. No, I just need to give you a gentle push. Once the flame of grief is ignited, it can never be extinguished. Chowing's new gospel plunged the entire class into a new wave of frenzy. But a practical problem soon emerged. There weren't enough pills. The bottle Cheering brought contained only about 500 pills. According to the original plan of 10 pills per person, it would have been enough for the entire class of over 40 students, with a little left over. But now, everyone's target had become 15, 20, or even more pills, and the pills instantly became the most scarce strategic resource. Why can he get 20 pills? I paid the class fund yesterday. 2. I don't care. I must get 20 pills. My dad said, if I don't get into a top school, he'll break my legs. Banana. Think of another way. You can't play favorites. The followers, who had been united just moments ago, began to quarrel among themselves over the limited blessings. The classroom erupted into chaos, with several people even shoving each other. Xiaoying tried desperately to maintain order, his voice from shouting, but no one listened to him. Xiaoying stood on the podium, her expression grim. She enjoyed the feeling of being a leader, but she lacked the ability to handle such internal strife. She looked to me for help. In everyone's eyes, my words as the saintess now carried more weight than hers as the cult leader. I couldn't let her lose control. This act had to be led by her for it to end perfectly. I stood up, and the classroom instantly fell silent, all eyes on me. Without saying a word, I quietly took out my small paper packet from my pencil case. I opened it, revealing the remaining 19 pieces of divine medicine. I placed it on the podium and pushed it toward Cheering. Xiaoying, I said, my voice soft but clear. Let me share mine. With everyone. Everyone was stunned, including Cheering. Suching you. She looked at me in disbelief. I smiled, a smile tinged with an otherworldly sanctity. I have already received the revelation from the immortals. I proved that the divine medicine is real, and my mission is complete. I can't be so selfish. What I want to see is all of us walking through the gates of Qingbei together. We are a collective, aren't we? My words shone like a holy light into this classroom, once polluted by grieving quarrels. Those who had been arguing red-faced just moments ago lowered their heads in shame. Jiaming looked at me, his eyes filled with admiration and reverence. Xiaoying looked at me, her gaze complex, gratitude, jealousy, but mostly a sense of being forced into a corner by me by setting my moral stance so high. If she didn't act magnanimous, she would instantly lose everyone's support. She took a deep breath, and a sweet smile returned to her face. She put away my 19 pills, then pulled out a small bottle from a hidden pocket in her backpack. Such is right. We are a collective. How could baby be selfish? She shook the small bottle. It was also filled with white pills. This is what baby prepared for herself. I originally planned to take 30 pills to sprint for the national top scorer, but now baby is willing to share. Every one of us must have a ticket to paradise. Thunderous cheers erupted. Xiaoying reclaimed her prestige, even higher than before, and I earned everyone's respect and admiration. A perfect win-win. Next came the final ritual of distributing the medicine, under Xiaoying's direction, with Xiaoming as the guardian, and me as the saintess. The three of us handed out the final dose of the divine medicine to the entire class. Each person received a small red envelope containing exactly 20 pills. No more, no less. 20 pills. The number I had first called out had now become the standard for everyone. A dose enough to plunge an adult into a deep coma from which they would never wake. They held the red envelopes in their hands as if cradling their own futures, their faces glowing with happiness and hope. I looked at them, at the sports monitor, who once pinned me to the ground and stomped on my head, at the arts monitor, who once mocked me for being a hypocrite, at the life monitor, who blocked the classroom door to keep anyone from entering when I was being beaten. I looked at every single one of them. They all held the ticket I had personally handed them, weeping with gratitude toward me. How wonderful! The school bell rang. This was the last time we would hear it in our high school lives. The homeroom teacher walked in, delivered a few cliched blessings about passing the exams with flying colors, and sent everyone home. The students hugged each other excitedly, cheering. See you at the exam hall. See you at Tsinghua or Peking University. Let's create miracles together. Their voices were so loud, so full of hope. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked out of the classroom alone. When I reached the school gate, I stopped and looked back. The afterglow of the setting sun spilled over the teaching building, coating that cold structure in a false layer of gold, just like the dream I had woven for them. Magnificent and deadly. I laughed. Goodbye, my classmates. Sleep well. Have sweet dreams. A dream of being the top scholar that never ends. That night, I slept soundly. It was the most peaceful sleep I'd had in 2 lifetimes. No nightmares. No icy river water. No solidified cement. I didn't even think about what would happen in the exam hall the next day. The plan had been set in motion. The gears had begun to turn. I only needed to watch as a bystander as they headed toward their destined conclusion. When I got home, my parents were both there, which was rare. They had prepared a hearty dinner for me. My mother kept piling food onto my plate, muttering, "Eat more. Do well tomorrow." My father handed me a thick red envelope. "No pressure. Just do your best." They had done the same in my past life. Then, after I died, they used my death compensation to buy a house in the city and a wife for my worthless younger brother. They didn't even shed a single tear for me. At the funeral, they said, "A girl is always meant to marry someone else. Dying was just her fate." I took the red envelope and said, "Thank you." Then I returned to my room and closed the door. I didn't read any books. Instead, I laid out my admission ticket, ID card, 2B pencils, eraser, and gel pen one by one on the desk using a small knife. I sharpened each pencil to an extremely fine point, the tips glinting coldly under the light. I opened my phone. The class group chat was flashing nonstop, with 99+ messages. I tapped to open them, and they were all recordings of Xiao Ying's voice. Her voice had been processed, carrying a faint ethereal echo. "Babies, get a good rest tonight. Don't think about anything. Leave everything to the gods. Remember, when you enter the exam hall tomorrow morning, don't rush. Wait until the 5-minute preparatory bell rings before the exam starts. Then take the divine medicine. At that moment, our hearts are most devout, closest to the gods. The effect will peak the instant the exam bell rings. The gods will hold our hands and write down the standard answers. Below were rows of uniform replies. We obey the Lord's oracle. Class beauty, rest assured, we understand." For Qing Huan peeking for the future. I stared at those fervent words, expressionless. Then I saw Jiaming post a photo. It was a peace charm he had prayed for at a temple. He had taken a picture of a whole table full of them and tagged everyone. "I've prayed for blessed peace charms for everyone. I'll hand them out at the exam hall entrance tomorrow. Wearing this charm can enhance your connection with the gods." The group chat was once again filled with sycophantic praise. I turned off my phone, set the alarm for 6 a.m., then lay down, closed my eyes, and the world plunged into darkness. The next day, the alarm went off right on time. I opened my eyes, and outside the window, the sky was bright, with daylight. A new day, Judgment Day, had arrived. I brushed my teeth and washed my face as usual, then ate the breakfast my mom had prepared, a fried dough stick, and 2 eggs. 100 points, she said, with a smile. "This is a good omen." I nodded. My dad drove me to the exam site, cracking light-hearted jokes the whole way, trying to help me relax. I stared out the window at the rapidly receding streetscape, saying nothing. The car stopped at the entrance to the exam site. Across the street, I saw them, my classmates. They weren't with their parents, but had gathered on the other side of the school gate, forming a circle that seemed out of place. Each of them wore an expression of facing a formidable enemy, their eyes bloodshot and red-rimmed, yet their gaze was startlingly bright, a light mixed with excitement, tension, and intense longing. Xiaoying stood at the center of the circle, wearing a white dress today that made her look even more ethereal. Ming stood beside her like a loyal guard, holding a stack of yellow peace talismans. Seeing me get out of the car, Xiaoying immediately ran over. He pressed a peace talisman into my hand and said solemnly, "Suching, this is yours." His voice was loud, and the parents, seeing off their children nearby, all leapt over. I took the talisman and hung it around my neck. Then I crossed the street and walked toward the circle. The crowd parted automatically to make way for me, and everyone looked at me with reverence. Such, you're here. Chowing smiled at me. A smile that was sweet yet insincere. You look very calm, she said. The gods must truly favor you. I returned a smile. We will all be favored. My words brought relieved smiles to everyone's faces. They tightened their grip on the red envelopes in their pockets containing all their hopes. The teacher, who was seeing us off, came over intending to say a few words of encouragement, but Xiaoying stepped in to stop him. Teacher, please don't disturb us. We are in the middle of the most important ritual before the exam. We need to communicate with the gods. The teacher was baffled by their superstitious behavior, but seeing how insistent they were, he could only shake his head and walk away. Time ticked by second. The preparatory bell for entering the exam hall rang. Xiaoying took a deep breath and raised her hand. Babies, it's time. Show our devotion. See you in the exam hall. See you there. See you at Tsinghua and Peking. They marched toward the exam hall like soldiers heading into battle, heads held high and spirits soaring. I walked among them, yet it felt as though I existed in a separate world. I found my seat. What a coincidence! Right by the window. I could see the anxious parents waiting downstairs, craning their necks. My gaze swept across the classroom. I spotted the sports monitor sitting in the front row, his body taut as a drawn bow. I saw the arts monitor tidying her hair. I caught sight of Xiaoying sitting diagonally behind me, offering an encouraging look. And I saw Xiaoying at the far end of the room, also looking at me. Across the dozens of classmates between us, she mouthed a silent phrase. Thank you. I smiled. No need. You deserve this. The invigilators walked in. A man and a woman, their expressions stern. They read out the exam rules, checked everyone's admission tickets and ID cards. The air was so heavy it felt like it could drip. I could hear the labored breathing of my classmates around me, not from nervousness, but from excitement. Their hands were hidden under the desks, and I could imagine them gripping those red envelopes tightly. I saw the sports monitor's legs trembling uncontrollably. I saw the arts monitor's lips moving silently, as if in prayer. They were like gamblers waiting for the starting gun, and I was the sole spectator of this game. I sat calmly in my seat, twirling my pen. My heart was a dead sea, utterly still. 5 minutes until the exam begins. Please make a final check of your test materials. The female invigilator's clear, cool voice rang out. Now Chang's signal. I saw the sports monitor, seated in the first row, make the first move. With an extremely discreet motion, he pulled his water bottle from his pocket and unscrewed the cap. Then, with his other hand, he retrieved the red envelope from his desk drawer. He tore it open quickly, poured a handful of white pills into his mouth, and swallowed them in a rush. Without even chewing, he tilted his head back and gulped down a large mouthful of water, his Adam's apple bobbing violently as he downed it. After finishing, he placed the bottle back at the foot of his desk, sat up straight again, and wore an expression of relieved, almost sacred radiance. His action was like a signal. A faint rustling sound spread through the classroom, the sound of envelopes being torn open, pills falling into palms, bottle caps being unscrewed, and swallowing one after another, rising and falling in succession. They had all learned cleverly, moving quickly and discreetly. The two invigilators were sorting exam papers at the podium, oblivious to this eerie scene. Xiaoying also moved, even giving me a thumbs-up gesture, before lowering his head to complete his ritual of devotion. I took out my water bottle as well, and pulled an identical red envelope from my pocket. Inside were a few leftover mint candies from my breakfast. I tore open the envelope, poured the candies into my mouth, tilted my head back, and drank water, my movements perfectly matching theirs. Chowing at the other end of the classroom also completed her action, even flashing me an approving smile as if to say, "See, we made it. Yes, it worked." Everyone had taken those 20 high-concentration sleeping pills. They sat quietly in their seats, waiting for the exam bell to ring, waiting for the immortals to descend and hold their hands. Ding, ding. The crisp bell rang throughout the entire campus. The exam began. The female invigilator announced the exam rules once and pressed the timer. I picked up my pen and removed the cap. The test papers were handed out. I lowered my eyes and began to read the questions. Then I heard the first sound. It wasn't the scratch of a pen tip against paper, but a dull thud, thump, as if someone's forehead had heavily struck the desk. I didn't look up, but I knew it had begun. Another sound came from a different direction. Then, thump, thump, the noises grew denser, like a bizarre symphony, echoing one after another in the silent exam hall. The invigilator finally sensed something was wrong. That student. What's wrong? With you? The female teacher's voice carried a note of panic. There was no answer, only a dull thump. At last, I lifted my head. I saw my classmates, just moments ago, sitting upright and full of hope, now slumping one by one onto their desks like puppets, whose strings had been cut, their faces still held, that blissful, expectant smile. The sports monitor, the arts monitor, zhowing, one after another, perfectly uniform. They slept so peacefully. The female invigilator's face instantly drained of color. She pointed at the fallen students, her voice trembling with fear. How did they all fall asleep? The male invigilator panicked as well. He rushed down from the podium and shook the sports monitor in the front row vigorously. Wake up! Wake up! The exam has started. The sports monitor's body was like a lump of mud, completely unresponsive in the entire exam hall. More than half of the 40-plus examinees had collapsed, leaving only a few students from other schools, and me, the only one from my school holding my pen amidst everyone's panic, filling in my answer on the first multiple-choice question's answer sheet. The sunlight was just right, and the breeze was gentle. The examination hall was in complete chaos. Screams, the sound of desks and chairs being knocked over, and the frantic shouts of the invigilator call an ambulance. Everyone, all students, who are fine, go out to the hallway. The male invigilator roared into his walkie-talkie as he rushed out of the classroom. The female invigilator, pale-faced, leaned against the podium, her body swaying unsteadily. A few students from other schools around me were terrified out of their wits, scrambling and crawling to escape. Soon only 3 people remained in the classroom: the female invigilator, me, and my classmates lying on the floor as if asleep. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. How are you fine? I put down my pen, lifted my head, and wore a look of bewilderment and fear at just the right moment. Teacher, I don't know what happened to them. My voice trembled. I looked like a frightened lamb that had narrowly escaped a pack of wolves. She stared at me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something. But in the end, she said nothing. Urgent footsteps echoed in the hallway. The principal, the dean of students, and a few leaders I didn't recognize rushed in. Seeing the mess in the classroom, every one of them turned pale. What happened? The principal's voice quivered. Massachusetts mass fainting. The female invigilator said tearfully. The principal's gaze swept across the classroom and finally settled on me, the only student from our school still conscious. You come with me. I was led out of that exam hall, walking down the long corridor. I could hear the clear sound of writing from other exam rooms. Scratch, scratch, the friction of pen tips against dreams. As for my classmates, their dreams had already ended prematurely. I was taken to an office, where several leaders surrounded me, firing questions in a flurry. What did you see? What did they eat before the exam? Why are you fine? I just shook my head and cried. I rambled through the prepared story, mixing up the details. It was chowing. She said she had candy blessed by the gods. Everyone got a red envelope. I was scared. I only dared to take a small bite. I was afraid that if I wasn't sincere enough, the gods would. I don't know. I really don't know anything. I cried my heart out, like a child who had suffered an immense injustice. My performance was flawless, a pitiful wretch swept up by the collective, but spared by sheer cowardice. No one suspected me. Their eyes were filled with sympathy for my words. They pieced together an absurd yet logically consistent truth. Collective superstition, consumption of unknown substances, leading to collective unconsciousness outside the window. The ambulance sirens grew closer, becoming piercingly loud. I knew the second act of the grand drama had begun. The matter was quickly classified. a large-scale collective ingestion of prohibited substances. The source of the drugs pointed to chowing. I spent the entire afternoon in a small restroom surrounded by police, teachers, and my parents. My parents were terrified. My mother held me, sobbing uncontrollably while my father kept telling the police, "My daughter is a good kid. She doesn't know anything. She's a victim, too." I buried myself in my mother's arms, my body trembling slightly from lingering fear. I listened as they talked about my classmates, 41 people, all sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Because the dosage was too high, several were in critical condition and went straight to the ICU, including Ming. The police found that red envelope in the pocket of every unconscious student. Some were empty, others still had a few pills left. The drug was tested and turned out to be the highest concentration sleeping pills available on the market, scientifically known as diazepam. 20 pills were enough to be lethal. That name exploded, like a bomb among all the parents. They couldn't believe their own children would do something so insane. Anger instantly flooded the entire hospital, and all fingers pointed to the source, Chiang. I heard that Chao Ying's parents were surrounded by dozens of other parents in the hospital, shoved and cursed at. Chao Ying's mother fainted on the spot, and her father, a middle-aged man, who usually seemed quite respectable, knelt on the ground, kowtowing to each parent one by one. But no one forgave him, because Chowing, their child, had completely ruined her future, even if they could be saved. This year's college entrance exam was a lost cause. Their lives had been marked, with a shameful end at 9 o'clock this morning. By evening, Chowing woke up. She was the least affected. No one knew why, only I understood. She was afraid of death. She gave everyone a full dose of 20 pills, but in her own red envelope, I guess there were no more than 5. All she wanted was a sense of ritual, a ceremony that would let her fall asleep peacefully and dream of Tsinghua or Peking University. She never believed in any gods. She only believed in herself. She believed she could manipulate everyone's emotions, making them sacrifice for her madness. But she miscalculated me. The police took her statement, facing their questions. She took all the blame upon herself. She didn't reveal my sane identity, because she knew it was useless. She was the mastermind, the one who distributed the pills. More importantly, her pathetic pride wouldn't allow her to admit that she had been toyed with by me, someone she looked down on the most. She just kept repeating that it was her idea alone, that she wanted to help everyone, that she never expected this to happen. She cried, tears streaming down her face, pitiful and delicate, just as always. But this time, no one felt sorry for her. The college entrance exam ended 2 days later. I finished all my tests, and the moment I walked out of the exam hall, the sunlight was blinding, giving me a surreal feeling as if an era had passed. My parents were waiting for me at the gate, the worry on their faces finally fading away. I did exceptionally well, better than ever before. When the whole world fell silent, leaving only me, my mind was terrifyingly clear. On the day the scores were released, I checked my results, 698 points, ranking in the top 100 of the province. I received my admission letter from Tsinghua University. As for my classmates, their lives took a different turn. Most of them were rescued, but their bodies were left, with varying degrees of damage. Their college entrance exam scores were 0. Everyone was given a major demerit by the school, leaving an indelible stain on their records. Zhang spent half a month in the intensive care unit before he was out of danger. But one of his kidneys had severely failed due to drug poisoning. His life went from a smooth path to a haze of uncertainty. As for Chowing, her fate was even more tragic than I had imagined. She was taken away by the police. Although she was a minor, due to the severity of the incident, she would face severe legal punishment. But that wasn't the worst of her fate. The last time I saw her was in the hospital corridor. It wasn't that I went there on purpose. My mother heard about what happened to her and insisted on dragging me along to thank her. Thank her for going easy on me. I spotted her from a distance. She was wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown, sitting on a bench in the hallway, surrounded by a group of people, parents of other students. They weren't hitting her or yelling at her. They just stood around her, staring at her, with icy, Cold eyes. Aren't you the one who likes to play the baby? A middle-aged woman spoke up. Her son was jowing. Aren't you the one who wants everyone to fuss over you? Well, now we're all here around you. Are you happy? Chowing on her head, her hair greasy and plastered to her face, her body trembling like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind. There was no trace of that ethereal aura left on her. She looked like a dirty, abandoned stray dog. Her father's company had gone bankrupt, and their house was sold off to compensate the losses of other families. Her mother couldn't bear the blow, and had lost her mind. No, she had nothing. She seemed to sense my gaze, and slowly lifted her head. When she saw me, a fierce hatred erupted in her murky eyes. But that hatred quickly faded, replaced by a complete ashen despair. She finally understood. She understood it all. From the moment I rushed onto the stage and shouted, "Give me 20 pills." She had already lost utterly and completely. I looked at her, my face expressionless. Then I turned around, took my mother's hand, and left this place reeking of disinfectant. I didn't look back. Behind me came Ink's long-suppressed, piercing scream, a sound like a dying beast. I walked out of the hospital gates, and outside, the sun was shining brightly. I took a deep breath. The air held no scent of concrete, no chill of the river, only the taste of freedom. How wonderful! After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My roommate insisted on learning to eat with her left hand and use the toilet with her right hand, just like people from Country Y. After spending so much time with exchange students from Country Y, she started carrying a strong smell of curry mixed with sweat in my previous life, the other roommates, and I simply couldn't stand it anymore. I advised her, even if that exchange student from Country Y is of a high caste, he won't marry only you in the future. It would be better to find a decent man to marry. While in university, my roommate took my advice and married an ordinary man. As it turned out, she came across a classmate's social media post and saw the extravagant lifestyle of the high caste people in Country Y. She stormed into my house and stabbed me to death with a single blow. Given a second chance at life, I'll just watch and see if she can live happily after marrying that exchange student from Country Y. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the dormitory. Our dorm was a 4-person room with a private bathroom. When I first got admitted, I couldn't have been happier. I got along very well with my 3 other roommates. But ever since my roommate Ruby met that exchange student from Country Y, everything changed. First of all, that exchange student from Country Y carried a strong smell of curry along with a foul stench. My roommate spent so much time with her every day that she inevitably picked up that smell, too. And when she brought that smell back to our dorm room, the feelings of the other 3 of us roommates can be imagined. So, as the representative of the dormitory, I began to persuade my roommate to break up with that exchange student from Country Y. After all, we didn't want to suffer from that smell either. My roommate Ruby hadn't returned yet from her date with that exchange student from Countrywide. The air in the dormitory was unusually fresh. The other 2 roommates were also absorbed in their phones, minding their own business. Once again, I came across that post from my past life. What is life like for high-caste white people? It was accompanied by a few pictures depicting the extravagant and indulgent lifestyle of white people surrounded by countless servants. The comment section is filled with exclamations about how amazing it must be to be a high-caste person in Country Y. They wish to be reborn as a high-caste person in Country Y in their next life. However, such comments are often met with heavy criticism. Many point out that high-caste individuals in Country Y are actually very rare, and the reality for most people in Country Y is living as low-caste individuals. Someone also mentioned the few Y exchange students at the school having just arrived at our school for 1 semester. These Y exchange students don't yet know how to use the social media app. So, even though the comments under this post were in complete chaos, no one from my country showed up at this moment. One message stood out particularly conspicuously. Don't white people eat with their left hand, and wipe with their right. How could you possibly stand marrying into that? I noticed all the replies under this comment were criticizing her. A few even ended up deleting their own comments while ranting, because they were too vulgar, and got flagged by the system. Of course, I can handle it, isn't it? Just eating with the left hand, and wiping with the right. That's what all high caste people in country do. I recognize the social media account that posted this comment. It's my roommate Ruby. Some people are criticizing her in the comments, but there are also quite a few who support her. I sneered, turned off my phone, and didn't speak again. Soon, my roommate Ruby came back. At the same time, the smell of curry mixed with body odor quickly spread throughout the dorm room. Someone in our small group chat, without Ruby, started talking. Jack, the smell on her is just too foul. Maybe one of us should talk to her about it. If this continues, I'm going to request a room change. Vivian, honestly, if she likes her boyfriend from country, why so much? She should just move in with him. Jack, by the way, Wendy, why aren't you saying anything? I'm too choked up to speak. I replied as well. There was soft laughter in the dorm room. In my previous life, it was Ruby and I who had this conversation, but this time, I chose not to step forward. However, my other roommate, Jack, couldn't hold back for more than 10 minutes, and finally spoke up. Ruby, it's so hot today. Why don't you go take a shower? Take a shower? I just took one yesterday. Ruby rolled her eyes in annoyance. Maybe we should take a shower. Another roommate, Vivian, chimed in. If you two want a shower, go ahead. I'm not taking a bath. After saying this, Ruby took off her outer clothes. Then she lay down on the bed. The dorm room instantly smelled even worse. I choked on the stench. You smell so bad. How are the rest of us supposed to stay in the dorm if you don't shower? Our roommate Jack finally couldn't take it anymore. What smell? That's the smell of a real man. Ruby angrily sat straight up in bed. You girls, who've never even had a boyfriend, what would you know about manly scent? Only strong men carry this kind of scent. You're just jealous that I found such a manly, wonderful boyfriend. Hearing these words, I instinctively felt a bit nauseous. Who's jealous of you? Jack was usually a quiet little girl, but Ruby's words had made her eyes red with anger. Exactly. You'll only end up with some weak, pathetic men in the future. Not like me. If I go to country, why? With my boyfriend someday, I'll be considered high caste. With your lowly status, you'll have to kneel and bow to me in the future. Ruby pressed on, seizing the advantage. Jack was left speechless by Ruby's remarks, unable to do anything but glare in frustration. You're so capable. Why don't you move out? Jack couldn't hold back his anger, and finally blurted out the sentence after holding it in for a long time. I don't want to move out at all. If you can't stand me, you should move out yourselves. After saying this, Ruby gave us a triumphant look. Indeed, we couldn't move out, because the school rule is that freshmen aren't allowed to live off campus. I had already reported this matter to the counselor before the conclusion is that we cannot move out. The dorm room felt eerily quiet all of a sudden. The other two roommates didn't even feel like chatting in our small group chat anymore. Ruby refused to move out. We had no choice but to endure the foul odor coming from her. Only when we left the dorm room could we finally relax a little. The other two roommates and I were spending less and less time in the dorm. My roommate Ruby saw how we were swallowing our anger. Not only did she not hold back at all, she became even more unrestrained. Her original comments under the post, I thought she was just joking. I never expected she would actually start studying in the dorm room. Her roommate Vivian saw her actions and immediately vomited in disgust. But instead, Ruby mocked her. What a lowly country bumpkin. You don't even know that high caste people in country why use their left hand to eat rice and their right hand to wipe after defecating. Consider this your lesson for the day. You, Vivian, hadn't expected Ruby to go this far. You, after witnessing my magnificent move, not only do you show no gratitude, but you even pretend to be disgusted. You're truly born with a wretched fate. As these words were spoken, Vivian immediately ran out in tears. Jack, and I had no choice but to comfort her. But even if it meant dropping out, she absolutely refused to stay in this dorm room any longer. After 2 days of chaos, only Jack, Ruby, and I were left in the dorm. That morning, I was just about to head to school, but as I reached the dormitory entrance, I caught a whiff of a foul stench. The smell was strangely familiar, almost like the scent that clumped to Ruby. It was a uniquely putrid blend, unmistakably tinged with the odor of curry. The others smelled it, too. Following the gazes of the other students, I realized someone had actually taken a right at the entrance of the girls' dormitory. For a moment, I was so disgusted I couldn't speak. I could only cover my nose and hurry off to class. When I got back to the dorm, that pile was already gone. My roommate was standing at the dorm entrance, being furiously scolded by the dorm supervisor. Girls these days really have no shame at all. You don't seem like someone without manners. How could you do something like at the dorm entrance? Didn't your teachers teach you since childhood to treat school like your own home? Is this how you treat your home? Other classmates were also gathered around, watching the commotion, making my roommate Ruby feel even more ashamed. But she had no choice but to continue enduring the dorm supervisor's scolding. The dorm supervisor was absolutely furious. I had been scolding her for a full hour when I saw my roommate walk into the dorm with red-rimmed eyes. Then I heard my roommate start a phone call. With her white country boyfriend, Ruby burst into tears as soon as the call connected. It's all your fault for not being able to hold it that day and insisting on using the bathroom right at the dorm entrance. You have no idea how badly the dorm supervisor, that old witch, scolded me, and everyone else was just watching and laughing at me. At this point, Ruby couldn't hold back her tears and started sobbing loudly. Wah 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 wah. It sounded like they were saying sorry, except their Mandarin wasn't very standard. It didn't sound very sincere. But even such an insincere comfort quickly made Ruby stop crying. Right after that, Ruby started mentioning wanting her British boyfriend to come pick her up. Not sure what was said on the other end, but the roommate hung up the phone very happily. Actually, she wasn't the only one happy in the dorm. There were also me and another roommate. We were overjoyed to learn that Ruby was moving out, but we didn't dare let Ruby find out, afraid she might change her mind and decide not to move out. So, the two of us had to suppress our excitement, pretending as if we knew nothing about the matter. However, our roommate Ruby also noticed that something was off with the two of us. He sneered coldly, without saying a word, and continued packing his things, though I couldn't help but feel she was being far too impatient. But the joy we both felt was truly beyond words. If it weren't forbidden, we would have even bought 2 strings of firecrackers to set off. The day my roommate Ruby moved out, I excitedly went out for a big meal with Jack. After all, ever since Ruby left, even the air in the dorm felt fresher while eating. I happened to come across our school trending online. In order to marry a high-caste individual from a certain white country, a female university student actually learned to eat with her hands. Such a headline gave me a somewhat uneasy feeling. Sure enough, when I opened it, it was my roommate Ruby. The person who filmed this video still had a bit of conscience, at least blurring Ruby and that white country national a little, prevent the two of them from appearing in front of the public in high definition, without any censorship. However, whether the censorship is applied or not makes no difference, because the place where the two of them were eating was the crowded cafeteria. In the video, there were no fewer than 10 people filming them. Before the two of them was a bowl of curry chicken rice. Normally a serving wouldn't be this generous, but because the auntie had a special preference for people from country Y, the curry chicken in both of their bowls was piled up like a small mountain. The two mixed the curry chicken with the rice and were heartily enjoying their meal. Because of his darker skin tone, the sauce on the face of the person from country W wasn't very noticeable. In contrast, the curry chicken sauce on Ruby's face was quite obvious. I instinctively thought of Ruby learning how white people eat with their left hand and wipe with their right. Suddenly, the grilled meat in my mouth didn't taste so good anymore. But that white person wasn't really that great to my roommate anyway. He wasn't nearly as good as my roommate made him out to be. Why? People consider their left hand to be sacred. But at this moment, the Y person used their right hand, which they usually use for wiping, to hold hands with their roommate. The roommate also seemed completely unaware of this, smiling very sweetly on their face. The comments under this video were almost breaking 10,000. Does she have no sense of shame? She actually chose to eat with her hands, just to curry favor with the high caste of Y country. She simply doesn't deserve to be a citizen of our nation. How disgusting. Everyone has the right to choose their own way of life. Why use such harsh words? Being with someone from Y country isn't just about higher social status. Is it also about that aspect? Eating with their hands like they haven't evolved. Can someone from Y country really make her feel better? It must be more satisfying. Otherwise, why would she invest both money and effort to be played for free? A girl like this, if she gets dumped by a foreigner later, I doubt any man would want her. Haha, putting earthworms in a can. Please delete the comment above. Please delete the post upstairs. I second the motion. As a result, the video was quickly removed by the system due to the overwhelming number of negative comments below. Jack, seeing me not eating and playing with my phone, couldn't help but ask me in confusion, "Wendy, why aren't you eating?" I sent the screenshot I had quickly captured to Jack and reminded her to look at it after finishing her meal. The only thing I wish is that Ruby never comes back. That would be the best fortune for us. Same here. I agreed deeply, although we were no longer sharing a dorm room with Ruby, but because our class schedules and homeroom were exactly the same, so we can still meet most of the time. I'm almost out of money, and I'm the one paying for every meal. Ruby's voice filled with grievance, and tears echoed in my ear. By now, a crowd of onlookers had gathered around the two of them. The people from country don't speak Mandarin very well yet, but I roughly understood the meaning. My money is still in the account. I'm too lazy to withdraw it. What's wrong with spending a bit of yours? When I return to Y country, I'll pay you back 10 or 100 times over. The person from Y country also felt embarrassed being watched by so many people and pulled Ruby to leave. Are you serious? Ruby clearly had some doubts as well. I swear by the Brahmin as a high caste individual, I would never deceive you. I am of royal blood, and you will be my princess. The Y person visibly rolled their eyes, but still patiently said, I love you the most. My roommate Ruby threw herself into the arms of this white person. That affected and artificial demeanor made the onlookers around them involuntarily take 2 steps back. The promise made by that white person just now gave my roommate a sense of superiority and entitlement. What are you all staring at? Keep looking, and you'll never become princesses either. In the past, you lowborns would have had to kneel and bow to me. You're just lucky to be living in better times now. Let me tell you, with looks like yours, my husband would have to be blind to even glance your way. Ruby pointed at several girls in the crowd. Immediately, those girls couldn't help but mutter psycho under their breaths before walking away. Watching the fun can also lead to serious injury. Ruby's drama isn't that entertaining to watch. As a result, Ruby saw the female onlookers leaving and became even more smug. Now, you know you're ugly, right? If you know you're ugly, get more plastic surgery so the ugly ones won't cause trouble if you don't get a complete makeover. You're not even worthy of shining my shoes, even after hearing such words. The person from country, why, still tightly embraced their roommate. Their expression even seemed somewhat approving. They're both crazy, Jack. And I quickly walked away. Jack and I walked, with our heads down, moving swiftly at first, to avoid letting Ruby spot us every day. Second, it wouldn't be good for the onlookers to realize we know Ruby unexpectedly. Jack and I hadn't even enjoyed 2 good days yet. Ruby actually moved back in seeing Ruby, with all her bags and packages. Jack said grumpily, Didn't you move out to live with your high caste boyfriend? Why are you back again? I paid the rent. I can come back whenever I want. What's it to you? Ruby shot back, without any hesitation. Then Ruby looked Jack up and down. Are you dressed so provocatively to seduce my boyfriend? Jack's face turned red with anger. Unfortunately, She had never been good at cursing, and could only offer a weak retort. Who wants to seduce your boyfriend? I'm telling you, a lowly creature like you is only fit to shine my shoes. If you try to please me now after I marry into our country, I might even consider making you my maid. Ruby's tone was condescending. Jack was so angry his nose twisted in rage. When he turned and saw me, he finally couldn't hold back his tears anymore since Ruby came back this time. We have to endure that smell of curry mixed with stench again. And now Ruby is dead set on marrying into country wife. That habit of eating with the left hand and wiping with the right is now being practiced openly in the dorm room. Jack and I aren't exactly germaphobes, but we really can't stand this kind of living habit appearing in our dorm room. We had no choice but to go find our advisor again to request a dormitory transfer. When Ruby found out we were moving out, she decided to get a single dorm room for herself. She became even more smug about it. On the day we moved out, our roommate Ruby was still standing by making sarcastic remarks. You were given a chance, and you didn't even cherish it. You lowly breeds will never again have the opportunity to share the same space as the princess. Being stuck as low-ass people for life is truly despicable. In the future, I'm going to be the princess wearing a crown. Oh, right. You've never even seen what a crown looks like, have you? That's right. Your parents are just ordinary laborers. If you were in country Y, your parents would be the lowest caste elites. They're the untouchables. You know. Oh, you don't know. You natural-born untouchables aren't even aware of your own loneliness. Pitiful. You were born untouchables. Unlike me, who managed to change my fate by finding a boyfriend from country Y, with my good looks. In response to Ruby's repeated remarks, both Jack and I pretended not to hear having such a roommate is just our bad luck. Before leaving, my roommate Jack finally couldn't hold back anymore. We may be pitiful, but you're even more pitiful. How does it feel to grab with your hands? Ruby immediately charged at Jack, but I stopped her right away. There was no way Ruby could take on both me and Jack, so she could only leave in frustration since it was the beginning of the semester. Dormitory beds were in very short supply, although we had both changed dorm rooms. The new ones were just across the hallway from the old ones. So Ruby and I still saw each other constantly, day in and day out. On top of that, we were still in the same class, so our encounters became even more frequent. However, neither of us seemed inclined to speak to the other. My roommate Jack even went so far as to delete Ruby from his phone if it weren't for the fact that he couldn't leave the class group chat. Jack would probably have deleted the class contact to avoid Ruby altogether. After that post by the high caste white guy went viral online, I realized that my roommate Ruby wasn't the only girl who wanted to be with a white guy. Most girls still harbor resentment towards people from country Y, though a small number, like my roommate, still hope to marry someone from country Y and change their fate. As a result, the exchange students from country Y at our school gradually became carried away by the attention from these girls. People from country Y do have some commendable traits, such as accompanying my roommate to her classes. They made sure everyone else in the class had their fill of dog food. Couple displays of affection. Of course, I didn't miss out on the smells either. That day, after class ended, we were just about to head back to the dorm. Then, we noticed that the white person didn't seem to be leaving. Instead, he was talking to a girl in front of him. The girl in front of him was also a classmate of ours named Judy. Not only were her grades outstanding, but her parents were also business owners. Just at our school gate alone, 2 of the shops belonged to her family. Her looks were also among the very best in our school. With such excellent conditions, how could Judy possibly be interested in a white person who was even shorter than her? Sure enough, Judy completely pretended she hadn't seen that exchange student from country Y. Hey, beautiful. Didn't you hear me? Just now. I said, can we get to know each other? Ruby's boyfriend asked persistently once more. Then he placed his hand on Judy's hand. Judy jerked her hand away from his, as if she had been electrocuted. The wise citizen didn't expect to be rejected. He directly reached out to grab Judy. But unexpectedly, Judy slapped him hard across the face. This made the wise citizen even more indignant, so he directly reached out and pulled Judy over. Judy struggled desperately, and other classmates nearby came to help pull the Y country person away. Meanwhile, my roommate Ruby stood by, with a pale face. This matter was far from over. Judy was very dissatisfied with that white person. They actually reported it to the school, and had their family put pressure on the school as well. Under the pressure of public opinion, the school had no choice but to step in, demanding an explanation from that white person and an apology to Judy. When I found out about this, I was just enjoying the drama with my classmates, according to a senior who happened to go to the principal's office. That white person not only apologized, but even promised that, when he returned to Y country, he could make Judy his princess, without any regard for Ruby beside him. Judy was very angry, feeling that this was an insult to her. She immediately scolded that white person harshly, even including Ruby beside her, cursing her for being blind to choose such a man. Ruby started crying beside them, and then had to apologize to Judy together with her boyfriend. This incident escalated enormously. Ruby became the central figure of this incident. Her crying meme was widely circulated among his students. She gained another nickname. It was called the Enduring First Wife. Although I didn't join those people in calling her by that nickname, I deeply agreed with it in my heart. Now, what difference is there between her appearance and those ancient feudal first wives? Perhaps there is still a slight difference. The difference is that those first wives didn't have to pay their own way, whereas she does. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh. My roommate Jack asked me why I was laughing. Then she couldn't help but laugh, too. Suddenly, someone who looked to be in their 50s or 60s appeared in our dorm. "Hello, could you tell me which room is Ruby's dorm?" I exchanged glances with my other roommates, and I was the first to ask, "Who are you? What do you want with her?" It's not that I'm overly cautious, but I'm worried that Ruby might be up to some mischief again. "I'm her mother. I need to talk to her about something," said the woman, who appeared to be in her 40s or 50s. Then I pointed to the dorm room across the way. The woman immediately headed straight for the other dorm room. She didn't even say thank you. Her attitude made me truly believe she was Ruby's mother. After all, Ruby was just as uncultured as she was. I soon witnessed the power of a rural woman firsthand. A door couldn't block the stream of vulgar insults at all. "I paid your damn tuition so you could find a man at school. How cheap are you paying to chase after some random guy? We still have a younger brother at home to support, and here you are choosing to be a cheap who supports a worthless man instead of saving some money for the family. If I had known you would turn out like this, I should have thrown you into the toilet right after you were born, so I wouldn't have given birth to such an unfilled daughter. What are you crying for? You cheap, how dare you even have the face to cry? I'll beat you to death. You worthless burden. You shameless chasing after men. And you still want to study? Get your ass back home right now. You like men so much, don't you? When we get back, I'll find you 8 or 10 men to keep you satisfied. Try crying one more time. I faintly heard crying from over there. It must be Ruby from time to time. There was also the scolding voice of that middle-aged woman from earlier. The dorm room was eerily quiet. No one even dared to breathe loudly. Although we knew Ruby's family circumstances were poor, we never imagined they could be this bad. She actually has a mother like that. I think I understand now why Ruby was so determined to marry that man from country. Why? In her previous life, I don't know how much time had passed. The cursing finally stopped. The middle-aged woman left, and Ruby also walked out of the dormitory with a red face. A faint slap mark was visible on her face, and the corner of her mouth was even split open. She kept her head down, not looking at any of her classmates ever, since she started dating that white country boyfriend. Her reputation in the dormitory had plummeted, and no one spoke to her anymore. In the days that followed, I still often saw Ruby together with her white country boyfriend. Ruby looked increasingly haggard. However, she must have successfully persuaded her mother after what happened with Judy last time. That white guy seems to have flipped some strange switch. He became even more brazen. openly hitting on other girls, right in front of my roommate Ruby. And my roommate Ruby, just like the nickname her classmates gave her, not only pretended not to see it, she even took the initiative to buy meals for her white country boyfriend and the girl he was flirting with. "Why are you eating here?" Ruby saw that there were no seats left in the cafeteria and had to sit down next to me and Jack. Jack was the first to be unable to stand her tone and directly retorted, "The cafeteria isn't your family's property. Why can't I come? Baby, it's okay. We can. Just sit here." Ruby's white country boyfriend comforted her. Ruby could only reluctantly force a smile. Then she placed the prepared meal in front of her. The smell of curry and that followed her spread through the air. Instantly, I lost my appetite completely. Jack and I exchanged bitter smiles and decided to wait until we returned to the dorm to eat something better. As it turned out, just as we were about to leave, that white guy stopped us both. "Two beautiful ladies. Why not join us for a meal meeting like this? Must be fate." His strange accent paired with his less than striking features. "No." Jack rolled his eyes impatiently. "Wendy, let's go. If you two beauties are willing to stay, I can treat you to this meal. I wonder if you two lovely ladies would consider it." The white guy spoke up again. Before I could even refuse this time, I heard my roommate Ruby let out a frustrated scream. "You're treating? Where would you get the money? Isn't it just going to be my money you're spending? Do you know how my mom scolds me? You're such a cheap who throws herself at men and gets used up. If you're so rich, why don't you pay for your own meal? All you know how to do is put on an act in front of me, but you can't even pull a single dollar out of your pocket. A spineless man who lives off women. Comma. Asterisk slap asterisk." The foreigner actually slapped my roommate right across the face. Seeing the situation turning ugly, Jack and I quickly made a run for it. Before leaving, I even helped her call the security guard at the door. I could probably guess the outcome, because every day I still see Ruby continuing to be with that man from Y Country, going to school together, attending classes together. Even Jack couldn't stand it anymore. That Y Country guy is way too much. Forget about making a girl pay. He even made Ruby cover our meal. So, I couldn't help but start educating my roommate Jack about the customs in Y Country. That's right. Women there not only have to endure beatings and complaints and work tirelessly, but they also have to pay their own money and even fund their husbands' affairs with other women. If they refuse to allow it, it's considered a violation of the law. My roommate Jack couldn't help but widen his eyes. Then he cursed. Holy time passed steadily. Ruby wasn't completely without improvement either since the last time she was beaten, although she still spends money on that white country boyfriend. She secretly adds every WeChat contact from her boyfriend's phone. Then she uses vicious language to force the other girls to give up on being with her white country boyfriend. As a result, that white country man truly ended up with only my roommate by his side. I suddenly came across a post from Ruby on my social media feed. Finally pregnant, accompanied by a picture of a pregnancy test showing 2 lines. For a moment, I didn't know whether to feel sorry for her or wish her happiness at the same time. Jack also saw this post on his feed. "Wendy, do you think Ruby is going to drop out of school to have a baby?" Jack held his phone up in front of me. "I think so." We then looked at each other, both feeling a bit complicated. If we had simply disliked Ruby at first, then later after seeing all the questionable things her boyfriend from Countrywide did, our feelings toward Ruby became somewhat sympathetic. Spending your girlfriend's money to find yourself a new girlfriend. And he even hit Ruby. But, with a family like Ruby's, what other choice did she have? I thought about Ruby's mother, who could use such vicious words to curse her own flesh and blood. Now giving Ruby living expenses is just to let her become the princess of Y Country so that I can benefit from it. What a family this is. The reason Ruby is so determined to marry into Y Country and become a princess is because of the deep-seated inferiority complex in her bones. With a child, Ruby walks everywhere, with her head held high. I am carrying the prince's child. My son will inherit the throne in the future. You lowly commoners, you can only breathe the same air as me for now. Do you even understand what an honor this is for you? Have you ever seen a crown? You definitely haven't seen clothes made of gold, but you won't have the chance to wear them anyway. What little sympathy I had for Ruby was completely exhausted by her remarks. The classmates were also afraid of bumping into her. And the precious prince in her belly. She kept a distance of 80 m away from him, as if she couldn't stand being near him, even after having a child. The man from Countryway showed no sign of happiness, not even a trace of paternal joy. He became increasingly rude toward his roommate, Ruby. I often saw him using a harsh tone to order his roommate to fetch meals and wash clothes for him. When I took the mix of strong curry smell and stench to the laundry room, a female classmate couldn't help but retch twice. What are you pretending for? Ordinary people can't even dream of seeing the prince's clothes. It's only because you're living in the same dorm with me now. If you were in Countryway, you lowly commoners would only be fit to clean my toilet. Ruby washed the clothes in her hands with a face full of pride. People from Countryway weren't particularly clean, and the clothes were practically dripping with black water. Yet, Ruby washed them with a blissful expression. From time to time, she would gently stroke her still barely noticeable baby bump. The girl very tactfully left the laundry room. After that, no one else went to the laundry room either. They all waited for the future princess to finish washing her clothes before going in to wash up. Within a couple of days, Ruby could be heard cursing in the hallway. Is it really necessary to report such a trivial matter to the dorm supervisor over this? What's wrong with me washing a couple of clothes in the laundry room? How is that getting in your way? Aren't you afraid of facing consequences in the future for bullying the future princess like this? Just wait until my son is born. I'll have him order you to scrub the toilets every single day. Still, no one paid any attention to her. After all of Ruby's antics, all the girls began to isolate her on their own. No one spoke a single word to her anymore, although we no longer cared about Ruby's affairs. But little did they know, her legendary journey with that white countryman was far from over. That day, for some unknown reason again, the white countryman brutally beat Ruby once more. In the end, a kind-hearted classmate took Ruby to the hospital, and even the medical expenses were covered by that compassionate student unexpectedly. After Ruby was discharged from the hospital, she blamed that classmate for meddling in her business. She claimed she was perfectly fine to begin with, and that the classmate had made her waste so much money, but the doctor had said that if Ruby had arrived any later, she might have lost the baby in her womb. The classmate who paid the medical bill up front came from a family that wouldn't miss such a small amount anyway. But after this incident, no one really paid any attention to Ruby anymore. 2 more weeks passed, and Ruby posted a moment on her social media. The content was, "I'm finally going to iCountry with my husband. I wonder what my mother-in-law's impression of me is. Will they accept their daughter-in-law? It doesn't matter if they don't accept me. I'm already carrying their legitimate eldest grandson." I received another message from Ruby 5 months later. I was sleeping when a phone call woke me up while I was reviewing my final exam materials. I hung up the phone with a surge of anger. Unexpectedly, the phone rang again persistently, and I had no choice but to answer it once more. "Wendy, please help me. Can you send me $1,000? I need to return to the country." Ruby's voice was extremely filled with sobs. "Didn't you go to Countryway to become a princess?" I asked, somewhat puzzled. How could Ruby, with her personality, abandon the wealth and luxury in Countryway and come back? And her mother is still like that. Plus, she has a younger brother. "Wendy, I was wrong. I shouldn't have gone to Countryway. My boyfriend is a complete pervert. He already has a wife here, more than 10 children, and 7 concubines. His wife wouldn't let me eat, made me kneel and scrub the floor every day, tormenting me in all kinds of ways. Wendy, I'm begging you, please send me some money. I want to come back." I softly uttered a no. "I see. Then you really shouldn't have gone to iCountry." Yes, Wendy. I regret it. I really regret it so much," Ruby said, weeping bitterly. "What will you do after you come back?" I asked softly. "After I come back, I'll find a man to marry. I still owe my parents a large sum of money." Ruby cried even harder. You're so pitiful. Well, I never expected you to be so good to me. Wendy Ruby was deeply moved. I hung up the phone. The next day, the phone rang again. Wendy, why haven't you transferred the money to me? Ruby's tone was accusatory from the very start. I never agreed to transfer you any money. I hung up the phone, with an expressionless face after hearing the 2 stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. I had eaten only plain boiled vegetables for a whole month. Yet, my weight had mysteriously shot up by 30 pounds. Meanwhile, my best friend was stuffing herself with fried chicken and barbecue every night, yet still maintained a waif like 90 pounds figure. It wasn't until I accidentally discovered that she was bound to a weight swap system, transferring all the fat she ate onto me. I didn't expose her. Instead, I decisively threw away the healthy meals and launched into a frenzy of binge eating. A week later, my best friend screamed in agony on a live stream and was rushed to the ICU overnight. She groaned in pain. Please stop eating. My stomach is about to burst. Is the person in the mirror me? I couldn't believe my eyes, puffy cheeks, a heavy double chin, and facial features almost hidden by the layers of fat. The bright red number on the scale, 150 pounds, was like a red-hot nail, driving straight into my heart 3 months ago. I wasn't like this. I'm 1.7 m tall, and my weight has long stayed at 50 kilograms, making me the envy of my WeChat moments as a walking clothes hanger. But starting 3 months ago, my body seemed like a balloon with a hole poked in it, swelling up uncontrollably. Even drinking a sip of cold water makes me gain weight like crazy. At first, I thought it was an endocrine disorder. So, I went to every major hospital and had a full round of tests. The results showed that every function in my body was as healthy as could be. In the end, the doctor could only attribute the reason to eating too much. But I was clearly eating even less than before to lose weight. I gave up all high-calorie foods and ate only boiled vegetables every day at night. I was so hungry, I couldn't sleep, so I would hug a pillow and cry. But my weight was still steadily increasing in desperation. I even tried forcing myself to vomit. The way stomach acid burned my throat made me feel like a monster. My best friend, Jo Chun, was the only one who knew about all this pain. She stayed with me every day and encouraged me. Ren, don't be discouraged. It's definitely a plateau phase. You'll be fine once you get past it. As she spoke, she picked up a piece of glistening braised pork belly and put it into my bowl. Eat up if you're not full. How are you supposed to have the energy to lose weight? With tears in my eyes, I looked at her gratefully. At that time, I still naively believed that she was the best person to me in this world until I saw the message that popped up on her phone. It was the back-end data of an influencer with millions of followers with a monthly income reaching 7 figures. The account was called Kikian Who Can't Gain Weight. The profile picture is Jo Chin's exquisite, bright, and beautiful face. I was stunned. When did Jo Chin become a competitive eater streamer? Her digestive system is clearly not good. She feels unwell if she eats even a little greasy food. I clicked into her live stream room on the screen. My bad stomach. Best friend was sitting in front of a mountain of food. Fried chicken, burgers, pizza, barbecue, all the things I love to eat, but dare not touch. She was eating heartily while smiling brightly at the camera. Babes, don't worry that I'll get fat from eating this much. I'm just the kind of person who doesn't gain weight no matter how much I eat. The barrage of comments was filled with fans' envious exclamations. The chosen one. I'm so jealous. Chan has such a great figure and can still eat so much. She's literally my dream girl. Looking at Jo Chan on the screen, slender in build, yet eating with unrestrained gusto. Then I looked at myself in the mirror. Bloated and ugly. A ridiculous, yet chilling thought rose from the bottom of my heart for the first time. Is there really such a thing as a body type that lets you eat nonstop without gaining weight? Or maybe all the things she ate ended up on me. The phone screen lit up. It was a WeChat chat message from Jo Chin. Ran, my live stream numbers blew up again today. Next month I'll be able to buy a new car. By the way, did you weigh yourself today? Have you lost any weight? I didn't reply. I just stared intently at the familiar yet strange best friend on the screen. A bone-chilling cold spread instantly from the soles of my feet throughout my entire body. And my suspicion, like a seed, began to sprout wildly in my heart. I began paying close attention to Zhou Qin's every move. Her live streams were getting longer and longer, and the food she ate was becoming more and more outrageous. From late-night barbecue skewers to early morning hot pot, and then challenging herself to eat 10 giant burgers in one go. Her follower count soared, quickly surpassing 3 million, and my weight was also increasing at a terrifying pace. In sync with it, 155 pounds, 160 pounds, 165 pounds. I could no longer fit into any of my beautiful clothes from before. Whenever I walked down the street, I could always feel the strange looks from passers-by. Those eyes mixed with contempt and curiosity were like countless tiny needles piercing me until I was covered in wounds. I locked myself at home, afraid to go out and afraid to see anyone. Zhao Qin came to see me several times each time. She brought me my favorite high-calorie desserts. Hey, stop dieting. Look at you now. How cute you are. All soft and chubby. She pinched the fat on my belly, smiling innocently. Why do women make things hard for other women? Being happy is what matters most. Her words were like a gentle knife, slicing away at my reason bit by bit. Looking at her hypocritical, smiling face, I felt a surge of nausea turning in my stomach. I began secretly recording every conversation we had. I began searching through every online novel about systems, binding, and energy transfer. Those wild ideas I had once scoffed. It had now become my only lifeline. Finally, late one night, I got my chance. Zhou Qin got drunk and fell asleep at my place. I used her fingerprint to unlock her phone. In her notes, I found an encrypted file named My Little Piggy Bank. I tried a few passwords, but none of them worked. In the end, I somehow found myself entering my birthday. The file opened with a click. There were only a few short lines of text inside. Weight swap system successfully bound. Bound target. Zhangren host. Zhaoqin function. All calories consumed by the host will be borne by the bound target. The host will obtain a perfect figure, and the bound target's weight will continue to increase. Note: the system cannot be unbound and cannot be reversed. I stared at those lines of text as if all the blood in my body had been drained away in an instant. So, it turned out that all of this was not just my imagination. It turned out that there really was such a vicious system. It turned out that my best friend was the one who raised the butcher's knife against me on the phone screen. Her chat history with someone else was still there. Zhangren is just an idiot. She's helping me count the money after I sold her out. Thanks to her fat, I'm now making over $1 million a month. Isn't that hilarious? Once I've made enough money, I'll go abroad. Who cares about the life or death of that dead fat pig? Dead fat pig. It turned out that in her heart, I was nothing more than a fat pig who provided her with nourishment. I gripped my phone so hard that my knuckles turned white one by one. It felt like an invisible hand was gripping my heart tightly. The pain so intense I couldn't breathe. Tears kept falling uncontrollably. I cried for our more than 10 years of friendship, for the trust one had once given so unreservedly, and also for all the pain and torment I had endured over these past 3 months. By the time I had cried myself out, I actually started laughing. Laughed until tears came out. I walked over to the mirror and looked at the bloated, swollen version of myself inside it. Then I took out my phone and deleted all the weight loss apps. I opened the food delivery app fried chicken, milk tea, barbecue, crayfish. I clicked on every food I had once longed for but dared not touch since gaining weight is my fate since the system is irreversible. Then why should I keep dieting Qian? If you want to play, I'll play with you. I'm eager to see. I'll be the one to burst from all this fat first. Still you to be the first one to be literally burst by my fat when the takeout arrived. The delivery guy looked at the mountain of food piled at the door, his eyes full of shock. Mississippi teach this was all eaten by you alone. I nodded expressionlessly. I have a pretty good appetite. After closing the door, I laid out all the food on the table one by one. The aroma instantly filled the whole room. Taking a deep breath, I picked up a fried chicken drumstick and took a big bite. The crispy outer skin, the tender chicken, and the piping hot juices. A long-lost sense of satisfaction instantly swept over my taste buds. Delicious. As I ate, I opened Zhao Qin's live stream room. Today, she was taking on the challenge of eating a 5 lb tomahawk steak. In front of the camera, she ate gracefully and calmly as if tasting some earthly delicacy. Fans frantically flooded the live stream comments with gifts. Chantian is amazing. She eats so much and still doesn't gain weight. Goddess, please give us a weight loss tutorial. I looked at the screen and let out a cold laugh. A weight loss tutorial? Wasn't her weight loss tutorial just me? I finished off an entire fried chicken and then opened a full sugar milk tea. The ice-cold sweet liquid slid down her throat, bringing a wave of guilty pleasure. Meanwhile, Joanne in the live stream suddenly frowned. She held her stomach, her face turning a little pale. Sorry, babies. I seem to have overeaten a bit today. She forced a smile. I'll end the live stream first. See you tomorrow. After saying that, she hurriedly turned off the live stream. I looked at the screen going dark and the corners of my mouth curve higher and higher. It worked. It seems that while this system can transfer heat, satiety is shared as well. I swept the food on the table away in a whirlwind. After belching, I felt as if I had swallowed an entire cow. My stomach was so full. It felt awful, as if I were about to throw up. But I didn't. I held back my discomfort and walked onto the scale 170 pounds overnight. I had gained 5 pounds. Good. The next day, I didn't receive a call from Zhao Qin. I suppose she probably thought it was just an accident. I'm not in a hurry either. The game has only just begun. I began to devise a brand new diet plan. For breakfast, 10 meat buns and a bowl of soy milk. Lunch, 2 family buckets, 1 liter of cola. Afternoon tea, a cream cake, and a cup of cheese milk foam tea. Dinner, 3 lbs of spicy crayfish and a seafood barbecue late-night snack. Another bucket of instant noodles with 2 sausages. I treated myself like a soulless feeding machine. I kept eating, endlessly stuffing food into my stomach. My weight began to surge at an unprecedented rate. 180 pounds, 190 pounds, 200 pounds. I had become an utterly fat person. I felt winded even while walking. And Zhao Qin's live stream kept running into one problem after another. She began to frequently feel unwell during live streams. Sometimes it was stomach pain, and sometimes it was bloating. The worst time was when, just after taking a bite of cream, she vomited in front of millions of fans. The live stream room instantly erupted into chaos. What's wrong with Chan? Is she sick? Purging? My God, is the big eater persona falling apart? Zhao Qian's company spent a great deal of effort suppressing the backlash. As a result, she also stopped streaming for several days. I know she must have noticed something. Sure enough, that night, I received a call from her. Her voice sounded tired and weak. Run. What have you been doing lately? I replied indistinctly while munching on chips. Nothing much. Eating, sleeping, and beating up little beans. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. After quite a while, Zhao Qin finally asked in a tentative tone, Are you binge eating? With a crunch, I bit the chips in my mouth to pieces. Yeah, I admitted it straightforwardly. What? Is that not okay? There was deathly silence on the other end of the line. I could even hear Zhao Qin's breathing after a full half-minute. She spoke in exasperation. Zhang Ran, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? I let out a light laugh and took another bite of a potato chip crack. The crisp sound carried through the current clearly reached her ears. Of course I know. I'm eating just like you do every day in your live stream room. No, this is different, she retorted anxiously. You can't keep eating. Stop right now. Why should I? I shot back. Zhao Qin, what right do you have to order me around? Is it because you're my best friend or because you're the creditor for my weight? Ran, listen to me. There must be some misunderstanding between us. She was still trying to disguise it with that gentle, innocent tone. Truly disgusting misunderstanding. Is that weight exchange system in your memo a misunderstanding? Was it a misunderstanding that you called me a dead fat pig in your chats with other people? Was it also a misunderstanding that you trampled on my health and dignity and made a fortune from it with every word I said? The breathing on the other end of the phone grew a little more rapid. In the end, she simply stopped pretending. Zhang Ran, what exactly do you want? Her voice turned vicious. Do you want to destroy me? I'm telling you, If you keep acting so recklessly, then at worst, I won't eat either. I'm not going to live anymore. Let's see who can outlast who. That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Sure, I said slowly. If you don't eat, then I can just take the opportunity to lose weight. But don't forget, you're a competitive eating live streamer. If you don't eat, will your fans agree? Will your company agree? Your luxury goods, your new car, your big house, they'll all leave you. Zhao Chun, you worked so hard to climb to where you are today. Are you really willing to give that up? She fell silent again. I knew I had hit a sore spot. She had long since been corrupted by fame and fortune, and could never go back to the way she was before. Zhang Ren, I'm begging you. Her tone softened, tinged with a sob. We're best friends, aren't we? You can't treat me like this. Friends. I chewed over those two words only to find my mouth filled with bitterness. The moment you started treating me as a stepping stone for your own rise. We were no longer friends. No, we are enemies. Zhao Chun, listen to me carefully. This game starts with you, but I decide when it ends. The pain you've caused me, I'll return it 100-fold. From today on, every bite you eat will turn into a knife stabbing yourself. Just you wait. I hung up the phone and tossed it aside. In the room, only the sound of me chewing my food remained, looking at the completely unfamiliar person in the mirror. I smiled for the first time. A genuine smile. Zhao Qin, are you ready to welcome my feast? Zhao Qin kept quiet for a few days. Her social media accounts fell completely silent and her live stream stopped. 2. I guess she was probably thinking of a countermeasure. Meanwhile, I used those few days to take my diet plan up another notch. I was no longer satisfied with just high calories. I began to pursue the ultimate sensory stimulation. A collision of ice and fire right after finishing a pot of scalding hot spicy hot pot. I immediately chugged down an entire family-sized bucket of ice cream. It felt as if a war of ice and fire was raging in my stomach, the cramping pain unbearable. But I didn't care. I knew that every bit of my suffering was being felt by Zhou Qin, as if it were her own. My weight officially broke through the 200 pounds mark. I had become a giant who needed custom-made plus-size clothes. Just when I thought Zhou Qin would keep hiding like a turtle, she posted an update, a heavily edited selfie paired with a pitifully vulnerable caption. During the past few days away, I've been taking care of my health. So babies, please don't worry. To thank everyone for your concern, the day after tomorrow at 8 p.m., I'll be taking on the unprecedented Devil's Spicy Chicken Wings Challenge. See you there in the comment section. Countless fans immediately flooded in with sympathy and anticipation. The goddess is finally back. Wah! I feel so bad for Chan. You must take care of your health. Devil's Spicy Chicken Wings. Oh my god, my expectations are through the roof. I looked at that post and let out a cold laugh. Unprecedented. Devil's Spicy. You're still too naive. Do you think the hell you've been through is the lowest level on the day of the live stream? I made full preparations in advance. I didn't order takeout. I personally made a trip to the Sichuan restaurant famous for its insanely spicy food. I asked the owner to pack up 3 servings of the spiciest signature dish in the shop, the one that supposedly could spice a cow to death. The owner looked at me with the eyes of someone watching a brave warrior heading to the execution ground. Girl, cheer up. There's nothing you can't get through. I smiled at him and didn't explain. At 8 o'clock that evening, I opened Zhou Chen's live stream room on time. She was wearing delicate makeup and a white dress, looking pure and innocent. In front of her was a plate of glistening red chicken wings, generously dusted with chili powder. Hello, babies. I'm back. She smiled sweetly at the camera. Today we're going to take on these legendary, devilishly spicy chicken wings. As she spoke, she elegantly picked up a chicken wing and took a gentle bite. It's spicy but so satisfying. She put on an expression of really enjoying it. In the bullet comments, the fans' gifts were flying in like crazy. I opened the lunchbox. In front of me, with a blank expression, a pungent, choking spiciness instantly filled the entire room. It was a pure, violent, utterly unreasonable kind of heat. Without hesitation, I picked up a large piece of tripe soaked in chili oil and stuffed it into my mouth. Fire! A ball of fire exploded instantly in my mouth. Then it burned all the way down my esophagus into my stomach. My tears and mucus surged out instantly. almost at the same time. Zhou's smile in the live stream froze on her face fine. Beads of sweat began to appear on her forehead. Her face rapidly flushed red at a speed visible to the naked eye. This chicken wing really packs quite a punch. She gave a strange explanation and took another big gulp of milk. I ignored my body's protest and picked up another piece. This time it was a piece of brain soaked with chili oil. I closed my eyes and swallowed it in one gulp. In the live stream, Zhou Qin suddenly let out a short scream. She abruptly clapped a hand over her mouth, her body trembling violently in front of the camera. Her beautiful face was twisted beyond recognition by pain. Beads of sweat the size of beans rolled down from her temples, smearing her delicate makeup. Water, water, she mumbled incoherently, pushing the chicken wings in front of her away. The plate fell to the floor with a crisp crash. The live stream was completely thrown into chaos. What happened to Chan? She looked so painful. Call an ambulance now. The screen shook violently a few times, then suddenly went dark. The live stream was interrupted. I put down my chopsticks, lay on the table, and gasped for breath. It felt as if a knife were repeatedly twisting in my stomach. My lips were numb and swollen, completely losing sensation. But I was smiling. Zhao Chan, this is only the beginning of hell. The news that Zhao Chan had been taken away by ambulance shot to the top of the trending list that very night. Hashtag Big Eater Streamer Chan, suspected to have fainted during live stream. Hashtag the Ridgedy sparked by the devilishly spicy chicken wing challenge. Hashtag shocking headlines of all kinds spread like wildfire across major social platforms. Her company issued a statement at the first opportunity, saying that Zhou Chan had been overworked and was also suffering from acute gastroenteritis, and that she was now out of danger. But netizens aren't fools. That live stream clip of her face contorted in pain as she screamed was replayed over and over and edited into all kinds of memes. She can end up in the ICU just from eating a chicken wing. What kind of physical condition is that? Why is she still trying to be a competitive eater? I've long thought something was off about her. Her complexion always looks so bad after she eats. Could it be that she's forcing herself to vomit? Her whole image is collapsing. Public opinion, which at first was full of sympathy, quickly turned to skepticism and ridicule. When a wall falls, everyone pushes it over. Some brands that had once worked with her also quietly began deleting promotional materials related to her. I knew Zhao Qin's commercial value was collapsing at avalanche speed. All of this was within my expectations. At home, I leisurely sipped a bowl of warm pumpkin porridge while scrolling through these news stories. My stomach needed a rest, too. After all, the war was still a long one. The next afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. On the other end of the line was the voice of a middle-aged woman, her tone extremely unfriendly. "Is this Jan Ran? I'm Zhou Qin's mother." "Hello, Auntie," I replied politely. "Don't call me Auntie. I don't have a junior like you." Her voice suddenly rose. "I'm asking you, what exactly did Qian do to Ronu, that you had to harm her like this? She's still lying in the hospital right now. The doctors said her gastric lining was severely damaged, and she almost had a perforated stomach. Did you go off and pick out and drink with her? What kind of friend are you?" I listened quietly to her rant and found it somewhat amusing. So, in their eyes, I was still that little follower who always took Qin's lead. "Auntie, are you mistaken?" I said in an innocent and confused tone. "I haven't been feeling well lately, so I've been resting at home and haven't even stepped out the door. I only found out about Qian's live stream incident from the news. I was still worried about her. Why would you think I harmed her?" There was silence on the other end of the line. She probably hadn't expected me to react like that. You really don't?" "No, of course I don't." I sighed. "Qian is a big internet celebrity now. She's usually so busy, so we hardly keep in touch anymore. Auntie, please don't worry. Taking good care of Qian's health is the most important thing." I comforted her in a hypocritically yet polite manner, then hung up the phone, looked twisting right and wrong. Who can't do that? That night, I got another call from Zhao Qin this time. Her voice was as weak as a thread that could snap at any moment. "Zhang Ran, come to the hospital. Let's talk." I arrived as promised in the VIP ward. I saw Zhou Chen gaunt haggard. She was wearing blue and white striped hospital pajamas. Her face drained of all color, and an 4 needle was still inserted in her hand. When she saw me, a hint of malice flashed in her cloudy eyes. "You're here. I'm here." I pulled the chair over to the bedside and sat down. I even thoughtfully took an apple from the fruit basket and slowly started peeling it. Crunch! I took a bite of the apple, and the crisp sound rang out especially jarringly in the quiet hospital room. Zhao Qin's body trembled involuntarily. "Please let me go." She finally spoke. Her voice, "How much money you want? I'll give it to you, as long as you stop eating." I looked at her and smiled. "Money? Zhao Chen, have you forgotten? My family may not be incredibly wealthy, but we've never lacked money. What I'm missing is the 50 pounds of flesh you stole from me. What I'm missing is the dignity you trampled underfoot. Can you buy these with money?" Her face turned even paler. "Teach them, what do you want?" I accurately tossed the apple core I had finished eating into the trash can. Then I leaned close to her ear and said word by word in a voice only the two of us could hear. "I want to ruin you completely. I want you to hold a press conference. Say everything you've done in front of everyone. Tell them you're not some chosen daughter of heaven. You're just a shameless thief who stole other people's health and lives. Tell them your perfect figure was bought with the 200 pounds of fat I lost. Do you dare?" Zhao Qin's eyes widened abruptly. Her body trembled violently from fear and anger. You lunatic madman." I straightened up and looked down at her. "Isn't this all because you forced me? I'll give you 1 day to think it over. At this time tomorrow, if you still don't give me an answer." I picked up another apple and shook it at her. "Then I'll have no choice but to make the decision for you. For example, how about trying that new all-you-can-eat seafood place in our city? I heard their king crab is pretty good." I carried the fruit basket and walked out of the hospital room, thick with the smell of disinfectant. Behind me came heavy breathing, suppressed with anger and fear. I felt calmer than I had ever been. It could even be said to be pleasure. Igova had chose. One was a path to survival where she would be disgraced and ruined, but perhaps find release. The other was a dead end. Continue being dragged along by me and fall into the endless hell. I know that given her personality, she would choose neither of those 2 paths. She would choose the third one. That is, find a way to get rid of me. This nuisance. I went home and took a hot shower. In the mirror, that bloated body still feels strangely unfamiliar to me. But my gaze has become firm and sharp. This body is both the armor of my revenge and my weapon. I spent the afternoon in calm. I didn't order takeout. I just drank some vegetable juice. It gave my stomach, and Zhao Chen's stomach as well, a moment to catch their breath before a storm arrives. Things are always especially quiet. In the evening, my phone rang. It was my mom calling. "Run. How have you been lately?" Her voice was full of careful concern. "I'm doing pretty well." "Mom, what's wrong?" I heard from Qian's mother that you haven't been in very good shape lately. She said, "You've been cooped up at home eating and drinking all kinds of junk and have gained a lot of weight." She also said, "Your mental state is a little off." I held the phone, the smile at the corners of my mouth growing colder and colder. "It's here. Just as expected." Zhao Qin's third move. Smear me. Define me as a mentally deranged lunatic. In that case, everything I've said will become the ramblings of a madman. No one will believe the accusations of a binge-eating patient. What a brilliant move to cut off the problem at its root. "Mom, I'm fine." I tried to make my voice sound as normal as possible. "It's just that I've been a bit stressed lately, and my appetite has improved a little." Qian's mother was probably just concerned about me and exaggerated a bit. "Don't worry. Are you really okay? Do you want to see a doctor?" Her mother's tone was full of concern. Qian's mother said she could help arrange a very good psychiatrist. See, they'd even thought of a fallback plan for me, as long as I'm diagnosed with a mental health issue. Zhao Qin can completely rest easy. She can even win the public sympathy by portraying herself as a saintly figure who stayed by her sick best friend's side and never gave up on her. Turn my obesity into her new traffic code. This woman is truly vile to the core. "Mom, I'm really fine." I patiently soothed her. "I know my own body. You and Dad shouldn't overthink it. Join. Do you think that by doing this you can put me in a checkmate? Do you think you can still before control public opinion and control my life? You're wrong. I am no longer the naive, foolish Jiang Ren I used to be. I opened my phone and looked at the chat history between Zhao Chun and me. I looked at the words she had sent. Things like fat pig. I looked at the screenshot of that system in her notes. I sorted all this evidence into categories, organized it, encrypted it, and then uploaded it to the cloud. After finishing all that, I looked at the clock on the wall. There was only 1 hour left until the 24-hour deadline I had given her. She hadn't contacted me. This means she has already made her choice. Good. I should also start my next step. I opened the live streaming software. I didn't use beauty filters, and I didn't use any filters. I pointed the most honest, the most brutal camera at my own face, swollen from obesity. Then I registered a new account. The account was called Revenge of the 200-Gene Woman. Then I posted my first live stream announcement. Tonight at 9:00 p.m., I'll live stream myself eating 10 pounds of king crab raw, challenging the limits of human appetite. Will it be a gluttonous feast or a death carnival? See you there. At the end of the post, I tagged Zhao Qin's account, the one with 3 million followers. Qin, who can't gain weight. Zhao Qin, don't you like live streaming? Don't you enjoy the feeling of being the center of attention in front of the camera? Then I'll play along with you. Let's see tonight whose live stream room will become a true hell on earth. At 9:00 that evening, I started the live stream right on time. There was no fancy background, no professional lighting. Right at the most ordinary dining table in my house. In the shot, I'm wearing a loose black t-shirt, with my hair casually tied back at 200 pounds. I looked like a little mountain on camera. Just as the live stream started, a few people trickled in one by one. Most of them were drawn in by that sensational headline. A small number came over as onlookers from Zhao Qin's side. Is this streamer for real? 200 pounds clickbait. Right. 10 pounds of king crab. How could anyone possibly finish that? Is this the account that tagged Qin? Riding on the hype. The barrage was filled with skepticism and mockery. I ignored them. I simply silently lifted that huge shipping box onto the table. Then, in front of everyone, I tore open the seal. A crimson claw, flashing king crab suddenly appeared before the camera. It was bigger than my face. The live stream room fell silent for a second. Then the barrage of comments exploded. Damn. Seriously. Such a huge king crab. The streamer's a beast. He's going all out. How much would this cost? Sugar mama, please take me in. I said nothing. Just silently put on my gloves and started handling this colossal creature. I handled it very roughly. I used kitchen scissors to cut open the crab leg, exposing the plump crab meat inside. Then right there in front of the camera, I started gnawing on it mouthful after mouthful. The sweet fresh crab meat with a hint of ocean saltiness spread through my mouth. Very tasty, but I didn't eat it with any enjoyment. My expression was numb and cold. The number of people in the live stream room began to slowly rise from dozens of people to hundreds, and then to over 1,000. Meanwhile, at the other end of the city, Zhou Chen's team also urgently launched a live stream. The location was right in her VIP hospital room. She was wearing a hospital gown and light, delicate makeup, looking pitiful and fragile. Her agent, Brother Wang, sat beside her, facing the camera, and explaining solemnly and righteously, "Hello, all fans and media friends. We sincerely apologize for Chanxian's live stream accident a few days ago. Qian only developed acute gastroenteritis because she has been working too hard and eating irregularly. Her condition is no longer serious now. Thank you all for your concern. As for those on the internet who are trying to ride the wave of popularity and maliciously spread rumors, our company will reserve the right to pursue legal responsibility." Wang's words were watertight. Zhou Qin was also standing nearby, squeezing out a few tears and playing the role of a victim at just the right moment. Her fans were instantly roused into action, feeling so sorry for Chan. Get some good rest. I knew someone would kick her when she's down. Shameless. Support Chan's fight for her. Rights. So that fat bastard to death. The two live streams formed a stark yet ironic contrast. On one side, it was a hypocritical whitewashing campaign. On the other, it was a silent feast. I finished off an entire crab leg. The cold crab meat went into my stomach, bringing a slight sense of fullness. I knew that Zhao Qin was starting to feel it, too. Sure enough, Zhao Qin, who was interacting with her fans in the hospital room livestream, frowned slightly. She instinctively touched her lower abdomen. I let out a cold laugh and picked up the second crab leg. Then the third, the fourth. I ate faster and faster, my movements growing rougher and rougher. Crab meat, crab roe. I was like a black hole, devouring everything in its path. My stomach began to protest. A feeling of fullness surged over me like a tide. But I did not stop. I knew that with every extra bite I took, Zhao Qin's suffering would double in the ward. Zhao Qian's face began to turn pale. Tiny beads of sweat began to form on her forehead. Chan Qian, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Agent Wang keenly noticed that something was off about her. No, nothing. Zhao Qin forced a smile. Maybe it's a little stuffy in the ward. As soon as she finished speaking on my side, I had already stuffed the last piece of crab meat into my mouth. A full 10 pounds of king crab had been completely devoured by me alone. My stomach was already stretched to its limit, and in the hospital room, Zhao Qin could no longer hold on. She let out a painful groan and suddenly doubled over. She clutched her stomach, her body convulsing violently. My stomach's so bloated, so painful. It feels like it's about to split open. She wailed in agony, her whole face twisted in pain. Everyone in the live stream was stunned by the sudden scene. What's going on? Has Qian's illness flared up again? Call the doctor. Hurry! Agent Wang was also thrown into a panic and quickly cut off the live stream. The ward instantly descended into chaos, and in my live stream room, the bullet comments, however, fell into an eerie silence. Everyone saw it. The moment I finished the last bite of crab meat, Zhao Qin collapsed once could be said to be a coincidence. What about twice? A bold netizen posted a bullet comment. Why do I feel that Qian's reaction is synchronized with this fat streamer's eating? This bullet comment was like a stone thrown into a lake, instantly stirring up 1,000 waves. Holy crap! Now that you say it, it really does seem that way. Last time it was the spicy chicken wings. 2. As soon as she finished eating them, Chan threw up. What kind of mystical event is this? Could it be that this fat guy put some kind of curse on Chan? The direction of public opinion began to veer wildly toward a bizarre and uncanny path. I looked at the scrolling barrage of comments on the screen and gave a cold smile. I let out a burp and said to the camera, word by word, everyone want to know the truth. Tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, same time, I will live stream the challenge. 100 oysters. We continue. After saying that, I turned off the live streaming chin. Do you think hiding in the hospital and playing the victim will let you clear your name? I won't let you get what you want. I'm going to expose that hypocritical mask of yours layer by layer with my own hands in front of the entire internet. My second live stream went completely viral. A clip video titled, A 200-pound streamer takes on King Crab head-on while a rival streamer simultaneously falls critically, will spread like wildfire across major short video platforms. Its views broke 10 million overnight. My live stream account's follower count exploded from a few hundred to 1,000. Countless onlookers flooded into my comment section. They called me a witch doctor, an occult live streamer, and a weapon of karmic law. All kinds of bizarre speculations kept emerging one after another. Of course, there were also many people cursing me, saying that I would stop at nothing to get famous and was maliciously cursing others. Joe's fans even organized an online troll army, viciously launching personal attacks in my comment section. Fat pig. Get out of the live streaming industry. Disgusting thing. Hope the fat kills you soon. Cloud chasing off our Qian's popularity. Do you deserve it? I looked at those vicious remarks, feeling no ripple in my heart. In fact, I even felt like laughing a little. The more fiercely they scolded me, the higher my popularity rose. Zhao Chen's team clearly realized this as well. They no longer dared let Zhao Chen appear in public and could only send out a lawyer's letter warning that they would sue me for spreading rumors and defamation. This pale and feeble warning, in the eyes of netizens, looked more like anger and embarrassment, an attempt to cover up the truth. The fire of public opinion burned hotter and hotter. Everyone seemed to be waiting for the opening of a grand spectacle, waiting for tonight's 9 p.m. 100 Oysters Challenge. And the other main character in this grand drama, Zhao Chen, was now suffering in hell. The after effects of the king crowd were far stronger than I had imagined. It was an extreme, tearing sense of fullness, I could imagine the agony of her lying in a hospital bed, feeling as if her internal organs were being squeezed and distorted. The doctor couldn't find any cause. All of it could only be attributed to functional gastrointestinal disorder of nervous origin. In the afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. On the other end of the line was a calm male voice. "Hello. Is this a mess?" Zhang ran. "I'm Zhao Qin's agent. Fkai." "Oh." The scheming advisor by the lead actor's side had finally lost his composure. "Mr. Wang, what can I do for you?" I asked in a calm tone. "I think we need to talk." Wai's voice sounded a little weary. "Can you cancel the live stream tonight? You set the terms. Anything I can do, I'll agree to." His tone carried a hint of pleading. "It seems Zhou Qin's situation is even worse than I imagined." "Conditions?" I gave a soft laugh. "I made my conditions very clear to Zhao Qin yesterday. Let her hold a press conference and make all the truth public. As long as she does that, I'll stop immediately." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Miss Zhang." Wan Kai's tone became serious. "What you're doing won't do any good for either you or Zhao Qin. It will only end in both sides suffering losses right now. Our Qinian is the company's top streamer. If she falls, the company's losses will be immeasurable. You're making an enemy of our entire company." He started threatening me. "Is that so?" I wasn't the least bit moved. "So what? I don't even care about my own body anymore. Do you think I'd care about your company?" "Mr. Wang, I advise you to think carefully about my proposal. After all, Zhou Chen's body is your company's biggest asset, isn't it? Given how she is now, how much value can she still create for you? Rather than letting her drag on like this, half dead, only to be completely devoured by public backlash in the end. Why not let her come clean on her own? At least she can earn the good reputation of having the courage to admit her mistakes. Maybe she could even switch gears and become an inspirational influencer, telling the story of how she strayed from the path, then suddenly saw the light. This is much more dignified than being a victim of some mystical incident now, isn't it?" My words were like a precise surgical knife, slicing open the core of the interests they cared about most, and were also the most hypocritical about. Wan Kai fell silent again. This time the silence lasted even longer. I could feel that he was weighing it, calculating as a businessman what he considered had never been right or wrong, only the maximization of profit. "I need time to discuss it with the company." After a long while, he finally spoke hoarsely. "Okay," I answered promptly, "but before you come to an agreement, my live stream will continue. Tonight's oysters are just an appetizer. Tomorrow, maybe it'll be a 30 pounds whole roast lamb. The day after tomorrow, maybe it'll be a 100 deep-fried donuts. I'd like to see just how sturdy your money tree really is. Can you hold up against me after several rounds of bombardment?" After hanging up the phone, I walked to the refrigerator and took out the box of fresh oysters I had ordered yesterday. Each one was as big as a palm, plump and juicy. Looking at them, I could almost already see Zhao Qin's face twisted in fear and despaired. "Zhao Qin, why? You can take your time discussing it. My feast is about to begin. This live stream named Retribution was started by your own hands. I will be its most perfect host." At 9 o'clock in the evening, my live stream room lit up on time. The number of viewers instantly surged past 300,000, and that number was still skyrocketing at a terrifying pace. My screen was packed with a dense flood of scrolling comments and IDs. Some were curious, some skeptical, some insulting, and some expectant. I became the center of the storm, a 200 lb silent center. I didn't look at the barrage. In front of me sat a huge foam box. In front of everyone, I opened it. A whole box full of fresh oysters, still covered in cold moisture, appeared before the camera. Each one was as big as my palm. In the live stream room, a chorus of gasps rang out. "Holy, they're for real. Is that like 100 of them? Is the streamer's stomach made of iron? Straight up raw. Not even a lemon." I didn't answer any questions. I simply picked up an oyster and with an oyster knife, deftly pried open the shell, revealing the glistening, plump, and tender oyster meat inside. Then I tilted my head back and slid that cool oyster meat with its briny, salty scent of sea water into my mouth. No chewing. I swallowed it straight down. A cold chill slid down my esophagus and all the way into my stomach. Very fishy. It's very cold, but I remained expressionless. I picked up the second one, pried it open, swallow it, the third one, the fourth one. My movements were like those of a machine programmed in advance. Precise, numb, and ruthless. The number of people in the live stream had already exceeded 500. Everyone was stunned by the reckless way I was eating. I knew that on the other side of countless screens, there was a pair of eyes staring fixedly at me. Or rather, they were staring at my mouth. That person might have been Joan. It could also have been Wang Kai, or it might have been their company's entire PR team at this moment. They must be praying frantically in their hearts, praying that this is just a sensational performance, praying that once I get to the 10th one, I'll stop. Too bad. I'm going to disappoint them. 10, 20, 30. My speed did not slow down at all. My stomach began to throb with waves of icy pain. It felt as if countless icy needles were stabbing and churning wildly inside it. I knew that Zhou Chen was feeling it 10 times more intensely than I was. She had just suffered severe damage to the gastric mucosa. Her stomach is now as fragile as a thin sheet of paper of these cold, raw, fishy foods are the cruelest torture instruments for her. I can almost see her lying in the hospital bed, her face pale, cold sweat streaming down. She must be clutching her stomach, curled up in agony. The doctors gathered around her helpless because all the instruments showed that she hadn't eaten anything. Her suffering had become an inexplicable medical mystery at that thought. A cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. I ate even faster. 50. I'm almost at my limit. The turning in my stomach almost made me throw up. But with my powerful willpower, I forced it down with all my might. I can't throw up. I have to make sure all of this stays firmly in my stomach. Then I'll pass on the exact same pain to Zhou Chen. Not a bit less. The barrage of comments in the live stream room had already shifted from shock to fear. Streamer, stop eating. Do you not care about your life? Just watching this is making my stomach hurt. Stop already. This isn't competitive eating anymore. This is self-harm. Of course, I was self-harming, but I dragged Zhou Chen along with me. 80-90. My vision began to darken in waves. My body trembled uncontrollably from the cold. I picked up the last oyster. The 100th one. I used up my last bit of strength to pry it open. Then, facing the camera, I flashed a bizarre smile. Zhou Chen, watch closely. This is the last gift I'm giving you. I swallowed it in one gulp. The instant I swallowed it, it was as if I heard a shrill, desperate scream coming from a distant hospital ward. Then came the sound of a plate shattering, the blaring of medical alarms, and the cries of shock from the doctors and nurses. It had turned into utter chaos. I knew she completely broke down, and I finally couldn't hold on anymore. I turned off the live stream and rushed into the bathroom, clutching the toilet and vomiting until I was dizzy and disoriented. Everything in my stomach seemed to have turned into sharp shards of glass. It cut through my internal organs, leaving them dripping with blood. But I lay on the cold floor, laughing. Laughed until tears came out. Zhou Chen, are you satisfied with this feast? My third live stream directly blew up the entire internet. The influence even surpassed the gossip of any top-tier celebrity. The 100 Oyster Challenge and the last thing I said during my live stream were edited into countless versions. They spread virally across all social media platforms. Zhou Chen, watch closely. This sentence has become the hottest buzzword on the internet. It carries a bizarre, horrifying, yet irresistibly intriguing magic. The relationship between Zhao Qian and me was also dug up thoroughly by the omnipotent Nizans. Photos of us growing up together. The screenshot where I once cheered her on in my social circle for her big eater career. And the comparison photos showing me a skinny person who weighed 52.5 kilograms, ballooning up to 100 kilograms in just a few months. All the clues pointed to an unbelievable truth. A truth that was enough to overturn everyone's worldview. I think I get it now. Did Zhang Ren give his own flesh to Joan? So that's why Zhao Chen can eat like crazy without gaining weight, because everything she eats ends up on Zhang Ren's body. What kind of urban legend is this? A real-life version of food substitution? That's way too fantastical. If that's true, then Zhao Chen is way too vicious. She's basically inhuman. Public opinion has completely turned in my favor. As unbelievable as it sounds, but in the two live streams, Zhao Chen's overly coincidental simultaneous reactions led countless people to start believing this most absurd speculation. Zhao Qinian's company has fallen into the biggest PR crisis since its founding. Their stock hit the limit down as soon as the market opened. All of the partner brands announced overnight that they were terminating their contracts with Zhou Chen when the wall falls. Everyone gives it a push at noon that day. I received a call from Wang Kai. His voice was hoarse and tired, and it no longer carried the arrogance it had before. "Miss January, let's meet. You name the place." I did not refuse. I knew this day would come eventually. I chose a quiet, serene tea house. When I arrived, Wang Kai was already there. He looked even more haggard than he had sounded on the phone. There were heavy dark circles under his eyes, and his hair was somewhat disheveled. When he saw me, he forced out a smile that looked worse than crying. "Miss Zhang, you're here." I said nothing, only sat down calmly across from him. The server brought tea. The curling fragrance of tea, for the moment, eased the heavy atmosphere in the air. "Chan, she's in very bad condition." Wang Kai was the first to break the silence. Acute gastrointestinal perforation, along with a severe stress-induced psychological disorder. The doctor said she almost didn't make it through the rescue. Now, whenever she sees any food, she'll have a severe vomiting reaction. Even water can't be swallowed. I picked up the teacup and gently blew on it. "So, what?" I asked flatly. "Did Mr. Wan come here today just to repeat her condition to me?" "No, it wasn't." W. Kai took a deep breath, as if he had made some major decision. "I'm here on behalf of the company, and on behalf of Zhao Qin to apologize to you. We are willing to meet all your demands. Money, fame, resources, whatever we can give, we can provide. We can even help you build a brand new account so you can become a more popular streamer than Zhao Chen. We only ask that you show mercy. Spare her, and spare our company, too." He was very humble, so low it sank into the dust. But looking at that face of his, all filled with calculated self-interest, I only found it laughable. "President Wine." I set down my teacup. "You still don't seem to understand. What I want has never been any of this. What I want is just justice. I'll state my terms one more time. Have Jia Qian hold a press conference. Bring up the existence of that weight swap system. And everything she has done to me. Say it all exactly as it happened in front of the whole world. Then kneel down and cow out to apologize to me." W. Kai's face instantly turned ashen. "Miss Zhang, you're pushing her to the edge. Admitting this publicly will ruin her life. Our company will collapse completely, too. And what does that have to do with me?" I shot back coldly. "When she destroyed me back then, why didn't she think there would be a day like today? When you were making a fortune off my fat back then, why didn't you think there would be retribution?" The negotiations had fallen into dead luck. Wang Kai stared at me fixedly, his expression unreadable after a long while, as if he had finally made up his mind. He took a document out of his briefcase and pushed it toward me. "Miss January, I advise you to leave yourself some room in everything you do. Don't be too ruthless when dealing with people." His voice became cold again. "We looked into you. Your parents run a small food processing factory, right? The business is doing pretty well, but it is also very fragile. You say, if their suppliers suddenly all run out of stock, if their factories were suddenly found to have serious fire hazards and sanitation problems, if on top of that a few customers who ate their products started showing symptoms of food poisoning, what will happen?" I looked at him, my gaze growing colder by the second he actually used my parents to threaten me. "Wan Kai," I called his name word by word, "you have successfully angered me." I picked up that document and tore it to pieces in front of him. Then I stood up and looked down at him from above. "Do you think this will make me compromise? You're wrong. You've only given me one reason, and I must drag your entire company down into hell. Go back and tell Zhao Chen. Tell your company's board. The game has been upgraded." When I got home, I locked the door behind me. Wang Kai's sullen face and his threatening words kept echoing in my mind. Anger, boundless rage, like magma burning in my chest. They actually dared to lay a hand on my family. They crossed my one and only non-negotiable line. Zhao Chen and Wang Kai, and that company behind them, which grew by feeding on my flesh and blood. You all deserve to die. I slumped onto the sofa, gasping for breath. I had to calm down. Anger would solve nothing. It would only lead me into their trap. They threatened me, just trying to scare me, and made me hold back. I refuse. I'm going to show them what it really means to go all out, even if it means mutual destruction. I need a more powerful weapon. One. A weapon that could make them feel the pain as if it were their own and feel true fear. One. An ultimate weapon that could utterly destroy all their hope. My gaze fell on the corner of the room. There was a small liquor cabinet. Inside there were several bottles of strong liquor my dad had brought back for me from his business trips. Vodka, whiskey, and another bottle said to have an alcohol content as high as 96% pure spirit of life. I used to have no interest in any of this. I even had a mild alcohol allergy. But now, staring at these crystal clear liquids, a wild, audacious plan, one that could take us both down, slowly took shape in my mind. The system can transfer heat. It can transfer satiety. It can transfer the physical pain caused by food. Then can it transfer the chemical reactions caused by alcohol? For example, dizziness. For example, nausea. For example, confusion. For example, alcohol poisoning. Zaoen's body is now already an empty shelf. Fragile. Sensitive. Even drinking water would make her vomit. If I were to make her on her hospital bed without any warning, passively fall into a state of deep intoxication, what would happen? Would her body be able to it? Would her will be able to withstand it? This thought like a devil's seed took root and sprouted wildly in the depths of my heart. I stood up and walked over to the wine cabinet. I took out the bottle known as the water of life, the strongest liquor in the world. I twisted off the cap. A strong, pungent smell of alcohol hit me in an instant. Just one whiff made me feel a little dizzy. Good. This is it. I took out my phone and opened my live streaming app again. My follower count had already surpassed 3 million. Exactly the same as Joe Chan's peak period. How ironic. I edited a new live stream announcement. The text is very simple. Only one sentence. Tonight at 9 o'clock. Live tasting the water of life. Some say that drunk words are honest words. I wonder if we can hear some interesting truths. At the end of this passage, I not only mentioned Zhao Chen, I also mentioned her company's official account and W. Kai's personal social media account. After doing all this, I tossed my phone aside. Then I walked into the kitchen and made myself a bowl of plain noodles with no taste at all. I needed to fill my stomach before tonight's final showdown. Or rather to fill Zhao Chan's stomach so that she could welcome this baptism of alcohol in the most bloated state possible. One Kai. Don't you want to protect your company? Don't you want to keep Zhao Chen that cash cow tonight? I'll do it in front of the whole internet. Uproot this tree with your own hands. Then set a fire and burn your entire forest to the ground. My live stream announcement exploded like a depth charge in the commotion of the internet. The entire internet went crazy. Water of life. Isn't that the vodka with 96% alcohol? Has the streamer lost her mind? This is live streaming suicide. Damn. She even had mentioned Zhao Chen and her company. Is she planning to drag everyone down with her? This is no longer mysticism. This is a blatant death threat. My name along with the term water of life surged to the top of the trending lists on every platform at an unprecedented speed. The buzz even surpassed any previous time. Everyone realized that tonight something major was going to happen. My phone had been ringing nonstop since the afternoon. On the screen, the same name kept flashing in One Kai. I didn't answer even once. I just stood silently watching it light up again and again, then go dark again and again. I know. He must be as anxious as an ant on a hot pan right now. He must be using all his connections to try to find me and stop me. But he can't find me. I already switched to an anonymous phone card. Only I know where I live. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw several men in suits and ties. At the front was One Kai. There was no longer any trace of the arrogance and chill he had shown in the tea house. On his face in their place was an unmistakable restlessness and fear. Miss Zhang, I know you're in there. He pounded hard on the door. Let's talk. You can make any demands you want. Please cancel tonight's live stream. His voice carried a pleading tone. I ignored him. I simply drew the curtains, cutting myself off from everything outside. Then I went into the kitchen and cooked myself a bowl of plain noodles and water. I ate very slowly, very carefully. Each bite felt like I was carrying out a sacred ritual. I want to fill my stomach to the fullest before the day of final judgment arrives. Outside the door, one Kai was still shouting futilely. Later, he began to issue threats. Zhang Ren, don't be so ungrateful. If you keep this up, we'll have no choice but to call the police. By then, you'll be guilty of assault. Call the police. I laughed. Would they dare? Once the police get involved, the system's business can no longer be kept secret. They can't afford to take that gamble. The knocking and shouting went on for more than 2 hours until the sky gradually darkened outside. Silence finally returned. They should have left. Perhaps they had given up, or perhaps to go back and discuss a new strategy. But none of that mattered anymore because there wasn't much time left. I took a shower and changed into a clean black dress. I even put on light makeup for myself. I was going to greet this event in the most dignified manner. This final feast I had carefully prepared for them. I sat at the dining table. On the table there were only 3 things: a laptop, a clean glass, and that bottle of the water of life. Standing quietly like the Grim Reaper sighed, I looked at the clock on the wall. The second hand ticks forward 1 notch at a time, and with every beat, it sounds like the tolling of a death knell for Zhou Chan and the business empire behind her bait. 59. I took a deep breath and opened the live streaming app. Then I turned the camera toward myself. At last, the clock hands pointed to exactly 900. I reached out and pressed the Start Live Stream button. The screen lit up. The trial has begun. The moment the live stream started, my screen froze. Not because the internet was bad. Rather, it was because the number of people flooding into the live stream room was simply far too many. 1 million. 3 million. 5 million. Finally, the number of people online in the back and skyrocketed to an unprecedented figure. 10 million. The entire server was on the verge of collapse. The barrage of comments like a white waterfall crazily flooded across the screen. It was so fast that you couldn't make out a single word. Everyone knew that tonight they would witness history. I said nothing. I just sat quietly in front of the camera. My gaze calmly swept over the frenetically scrolling barrage of comments on the screen. The live stream room was eerily quiet. Aside from the sound of the scrolling comments, there was nothing else. Everyone held their breath, waiting for my next move. A full 3 minutes passed. Only then did I slowly reach out my hand and pick up that bottle of life water. I held it up in front of the camera so everyone could clearly see that glaring 96% on the bottle. Then I twisted off the cap. I didn't use a bottle opener. I bit it open myself with my own teeth. The crisp sound carried through the microphone clearly reached everyone's ears. I picked up the glass and poured in that clear yet dangerous liquid like industrial alcohol. A full cup. I picked up the wine glass and finally spoke. My voice was not loud, but it was exceptionally clear. Zhao Qinhuai and your company, all the executives, I know you're all watching. I paused, a cold smile, tugging at the corners of my lips. This glass, I raise to you for turning me from a healthy 105 pounds person into a 200 pounds monster. To you for trampling on my flesh and dignity to build your business empire. To you for using the safety of my parents to threaten me. Now please enjoy this properly. Watch me and see how I'll return all of this double. After saying that, I tilted my head up, drank the full cup of the water of life in one gulp. Fire, a blaze beyond words. It instantly burned from the tip of my tongue to my throat. Then it surged down my esophagus and straight into my stomach as if what I had swallowed was not wine, but a cup of molten iron. Scalding hot, the intense pain made my whole body tremble. My face instantly flushed red. My eyes were bloodshot, but I made no sound. I was even smiling because I know in that luxurious VIP ward in the hospital, there is someone enduring torment 10 times, 100 times, more painful than mine. She will be caught completely off guard passively. She would experience all the sensations of a 200 pounds fat man drinking high-proof liquor on an empty stomach. Her stomach would be perforated in an instant. Her nerves would be completely numbed by alcohol. Her consciousness would plunge into boundless darkness. In the live stream room, everyone was stunned by my crazy move. The barrage of comments paused for a fleeting moment. Then it became even more frantic. She's crazy. She actually drank it. Call the police. Someone will die. I ignored them. I just panted heavily and picked up the bottle. Then I poured myself another full glass. This cup. My voice had become hoarse from pain. I offer this toast to you in place of my parents. Let me tell you some people you can't afford to mess with. There are some boundaries you people must not cross. After saying that, I tipped my head back again. I poured the second glass of water of life down my throat. This time, my brain felt like it had been hit by a bullet with a boom. It exploded into a blank void. My vision began to blur. The world spun around me. I could hardly keep hold of the wine glass in my hand. At that moment, my phone started ringing wildly. It was one Kai looking at the caller ID. I broke into a triumphant smile. I pressed the speakerphone button. Then he placed the phone beside the microphone. The next second, W. Kai's shrill scream, completely distorted by extreme fear, echoed through the entire live stream. Stop! Stop right now! Jen ran. You devil! She's not going to make it! She's coughing up blood. The doctor said she has acute alcohol poisoning and severe internal bleeding. Stop now! I'm begging you! We give up. We'll agree to anything you want. One Kai's scream, transmitted through the microphone, rang out clearly across the entire internet. That voice was filled with despair, fear, and utter collapse. Every word he said was like a heavy hammer blow. It struck hard at everyone's heart. Acute alcohol, poisoning, massive internal bleeding. Admit defeat. He admitted it himself in front of more than 10 million people. I admitted it. The unbelievable eerie connection between Zhao Chan and me. I admitted it. The bloody truth behind this online frenzy. The live stream room completely blew up. The barrage of comments could no longer be described as merely crazy. It was a super tsunami made of words. Holy crap! What did I just hear? Wang Kai admitted it himself. It's all true. Oh my god, Join is really taking it on for her. What kind of sorcery is this? So Jan Ran's obesity was really caused by Joan. That woman is so vicious. Serves her right. This is karma. At this moment, public opinion completely exploded. No one questioned me anymore. No one ever sympathized with Zhou Chen again. Everything had been settled once and for all. I looked at the camera and tried hard to sit up straight, but the after effects of the alcohol were too strong. My body was already no longer obeying me. My consciousness, too, had begun to blur. I used up my last bit of strength to steady myself on the table and lean toward the microphone. Then, in a voice so soft it was almost inaudible, yet so cold it could freeze the soul, I slowly said, Wang Kai, listen carefully. No, it is not something that can end just because you admit defeat. I want Join ruined and disgraced. I want your company to go completely bankrupt. I want every one of you to pay the most painful price for what you've done. This is when the game truly begins. After saying this, I could no longer hold on. My vision went black, and I completely lost consciousness. My head slammed heavily against the table. The live stream image froze on my pale face, which wore an eerie smile. Then suddenly it cut to black. The live stream was cut off, but the entire internet, because of the abrupt end of that live stream, fell into even more complete frenzy. Open the next day. Their stock had already been predicted to crash to the point of being worthless. All their partners terminated their contracts overnight. Other artists under the company also successfully issued statements announcing that they were severing ties with the company, that towering commercial edifice built with my flesh and blood. In just 1 hour, it completely collapsed and fell apart, and when I woke up again, I found myself lying on a soft bed. Not a hospital. It was my home. My bed. Sunlight streamed in through the gap in the curtains. My head hurt badly. It felt like it was about to split open. My stomach was still aching faintly. I struggled to sit up. I found a glass of warm water and a note on the nightstand. The handwriting on the note was very messy, but I recognized it. That was my dad's handwriting. Ran. When you wake up, drink the water. Mom and Dad are back. Don't be afraid. We've got everything under control. I looked at that note, and tears uncontrollably spilled out of my eyes. I won, but I lost, too. I ruined Zhao Chen. Yet, I also ruined myself. I picked up my phone on the screen. The entire thing was flooded with news about me. Among them, the most eye-catching one was #HaoChanBrainDead#. The doctor said it was due to acute alcohol poisoning, which caused oxygen deprivation in the brain. Although she was rescued, She had become a vegetative state patient. She would lie on that hospital bed forever. She would not die and would never wake up. And my live stream account for promoting self-harm and other dangerous behavior had already been permanently banned by the platform. I looked at the news with no feeling at all. No satisfaction. There was no sadness either. My heart was like a wasteland scorched by a raging fire. All that remained was a dead, silent expanse of ash. Just then, my phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered. From the other end of the phone came a cold, emotionless, mechanically synthesized voice. Ding. Detected that host Joe Chin's vital signs have ceased. Weight exchange system. Begin unbinding. Unbinding progress 1%. During the unbinding process, the bound subject Zhang Ren's weight will revert to its original state. Countdown beginning. That cold mechanical voice in my mind was like an oracle. No, it was a death warrant. A death sentence for Zhou Chen. And also the final order, ending that nightmare of a life I had lived before. Unbinding. I lowered my head and looked at my hands. Stubby and thick because of my obesity. A strange sensation crept through every limb and bone in my body in thin, thread-like waves. It was very itchy. It was like countless ants under my skin within my layer of fat, frantically gnawing and carrying things away. They were taking something away. Something that had never belonged to me in the first place. I threw off the blanket and struggled to get out of bed. My legs were still a little weak. I walked over to the scale I had hated for countless days and nights and stepped on it. The bright red numbers were jumping wildly. 200-1998-1996. It is going down. Although slowly, it is steadily going down at a speed visible to the naked eye. And my eyes welled up with tears again. But this time not because of despair. Because of new life. The bedroom door was gently pushed open. My mother walked in carrying a bowl of millet porridge. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her face was filled with exhaustion and heartache. When she saw me standing on the scale, her body trembled. Ran. Her voice was extremely OU. You're awake. I turned around and looked at her. The person I am closest to in this world. Mom. I called out to her. My voice equally. The two of us, mother and daughter, just stood there looking at each other. 1,000 words and 10,000 words all got stuck in our throats. In the end, she just walked over and held me tightly. She held this bloated, unfamiliar body of mine. It's okay now, she whispered softly in my ear. It's all in the past. Your dad and I are back. From now on, no one can bully you ever again. My tears finally broke through the dam. I buried my head in the warm embrace, and like a child who had suffered the greatest grievance, cried out loud. I cried for all the pain I had endured over these past few months. I cried for the life that was stolen from me. I cried for that sincerity of mine, trampled into worthlessness. The sound of sobbing echoed through the room. My dad stood at the doorway. And this man, who had been steadfast all his life, also reined with tears. He silently handed over a tissue. I don't know when they came back. I also don't know how much they know. But I can feel their unconditional acceptance and love. That is enough. After crying, I drank that bowl of millet porridge. It felt warm. It warmed me from my stomach all the way to my heart. My mom told me that after the live stream was interrupted, I was found by police and emergency responders who had forced their way in by then. I had already fallen into a deep coma due to severe alcohol poisoning. It was they who took me to the hospital for a stomach pump. It was also they who contacted my parents. My parents flew back overnight from out of town. They took me from the hospital back home. As for the storm online, they just told me not to look and not to think about it. Getting plenty of rest and taking care of my health was the most important thing. But I still secretly picked up my phone and opened it. The entire internet had already completely gone crazy. My final live stream was officially defined as the most egregious online streaming incident in recent years. All screen recordings and clips were deleted, but that recording of Wang Kai breaking down spread like a virus into every corner. It became the final nail in the coffin for Qian and her company. Her company's stock had already plummeted into worthless paper. The official website and app had both completely crashed downstairs at the company building. It was surrounded by furious shareholders and business partners who had come to demand their debts. Wang Kai has been formally detained by the police on charges of suspected incitement of others to engage in dangerous behavior and multiple economic offenses, and business empire collapsed overnight with a thunderous crash, and discussions about the weight exchange system had reached an utterly astonishing level of heat. Some believed it and some did not. Some people treated it as an urban legend. Others, however, treated it as an entirely new code to wealth. I even saw that some web novelist had already begun serializing a novel based on my story. It was absurd and ridiculous. I turned off my phone. I no longer paid attention to the noise and chaos outside. My task now is only one. That was to quietly wait for my rebirth. Wait for the system unbinding to be completed. Wait. The things that belong to me are little by little returning to my body. The system's deduction wasn't very fast every day. I could lose about 5 pounds. I could clearly feel my body growing lighter day by day. My features are becoming clearer day by day. My clothes are becoming looser day by day. It is an incredibly wonderful experience. It feels like watching with my own eyes a sculptor take a bloated, stubborn stone and bit by bit carve it back into its original form. This process wasn't painful. In fact, I even found it somewhat enjoyable. I started getting back to a normal diet, light, healthy, and nutritious. I began to fall in love with the taste of food again, instead of treating it as a weapon for revenge. A week later, my weight dropped to 165 pounds. I was already able to wear that dress in my former largest size, although it was still a little tight. That day, I was reading in my room. The doorbell suddenly rang. My mom went to open the door. Then, I heard a muffled, sorrowful sound of crying. I walked out. I saw two figures that were both familiar and unfamiliar. They were Zhou Qin's parents. In just one night, Zhou Chen's parents seemed to have aged 20 years. Her mother, the woman who had always carried herself with a sense of superiority in front of me, elegant and noble. At this moment, she was dressed in black, her hair streaked with gray, her face covered in tear tracks. Her father, the taciturn businessman who always looked at me with a hint of scrutiny. At this moment, as well, his back was hunched, his gaze empty, as if all his vitality had been drained away. Seeing me in Zhao Qin's mother's eyes, a towering, seething hatred instantly flared up like a crazed lioness. She lunged at me. Zhang ran. You murderer. You give me back my daughter. Give me back my Qinchan. Her fingernails, sharp and pointed, lunged toward my face. I didn't dodge, but my dad stepped in first and blocked my way. He tightly grabbed Zhao Qin's mother by the wrist. Mrs. Zhao, please calm down. My father's voice was low, brimming with unassailable authority. This is my home. Whatever you have to say, we can talk about it sitting down. If you're here to cause trouble, then sorry, we can only call the police. Zhou Chen's mother was still struggling wildly, cursing nonstop. Call the police. I'm the one who's calling the police. I'm going to sue you. Sue your whole family. It was her. She killed my Chan. Zhao Chen's father finally spoke. His voice was as if it had been rubbed with sandpaper. That's enough. Stop making a scene. He grabbed his wife and dragged her onto the sofa. Then he looked up and fixed his bloodshot eyes on me. Zhang ran. We just want to know the truth. What did Chan actually do to you? Why would you use such an extreme way to get revenge on her? There was no anger in his tone, only a kind of weariness and confusion that cut to the bone. It seemed they still knew nothing. Or rather, they were unwilling to believe it, that their once broad daughter would be a demon who stole someone else's life. I said nothing. I simply walked back to my room and took out my phone. Then right in front of them, I opened the encrypted file I had saved countless times. I placed my phone on the coffee table in front of them. On the screen was a screenshot of Zhao Qin's memo. Those few lines of cold, devastating words. Weight swap system successfully bound. Bound target Zhang, Ren host Zhao Qin. Then I opened the chat history between Zhou Chan and me. I opened it and saw the message she had sent me. Fat dead pig. In the end, I opened the screenshot of her chat log with someone else. Jian Ren is just an idiot. She's helping me count the money after I sold her out. Thanks to her fat, I'm now making over $1 million a month. Isn't that hilarious? Silence. A deathly silence in the living room. The only sound left was Mrs. Zhao Qin's heavy breathing made rough by shock. She stared at the familiar yet unfamiliar words on the screen, looking at her daughter. that vicious face full of smugness and contempt. Her body began to tremble violently. The color drained from her face from disbelief to shock, and then to complete collapse. "No, this isn't real. This isn't my Chan," she murmured to herself like she'd gone mad. Zhao Chen's father was also stunned. He stared fixedly at the screen. His body gradually slumped down bit by bit. This man who had commanded the business world with overwhelming influence at the very moment he saw the truth. Finally, completely, he was utterly defeated. So it turns out it's like this. He closed his eyes and 2 streaks of cloudy tears slid down from the corners of his wrinkled eyes. I quietly looked at these 2 pitiful parents, broken down by the truth. I felt no sympathy at all. I only felt very sad for Zhao Chen, and for them even more so. My own past. Those more than 10 years of life that had been treated as a joke. "No, do you know the truth?" I asked calmly. It was her who first raised the butcher's knife against me. It was she who turned me into a monster. It was she who ruined my life. Everything I did was nothing more than giving back to her the pain she had inflicted on me. This is not called revenge. This is called getting what she deserves. Zhou's mother suddenly looked up. She looked at me, and in her eyes there was no longer hatred. Instead, there was a kind of hollow, hopeless plea. "Please save Chan. I know you have a way. You definitely have a way to wake her up. Right? As long as you can wake her up, we're willing to give you everything we have. Our family's assets. The company. Everything will be yours." I looked at her and smiled. The smile was somewhat bleak. "Mrs. Zhou, have you forgotten? I am the one who is truly the victim. What you should be begging for now is not me, but your good daughter who is lying in a hospital bed and will never wake up again." After saying that, I stopped looking at them. I said to my mom and dad, "Dad, Mom, I'm tired. Please see them out." My dad nodded and walked over to open the door. He made a pleased gesture. Zhao Chen's parents stood up in a daze. Like 2 puppets whose souls had been pulled out. They supported each other as they walked out of my house from beginning to end. Not another word was spoken. I knew their world had also completely collapsed. The tragedy of a family often begins with decay from within. And Zhao Chen was the fruit that rotted first. After Zhao Chen's parents left, my life completely returned to peace. The system unbinding was still continuing. My weight became lighter day by day. My body became closer day by day to what it originally looked like. Half a month later, my weight dropped to 120 pounds. I can already wear all the clothes I used to own, though they're still a bit tight. But when I stood in front of the mirror, looking at that version of myself, both familiar and unfamiliar, I still couldn't help but cry. I'm back. That Zhang Ren from the past has finally come back. Only some things have changed forever. My gaze no longer the way it used to be, clear and innocent, but instead, there was more of a cold, sharp air that saw through the world. My heart was hard and cold. I would no longer be easily shaken by anyone or anything. I began to clean up my room. I threw all those oversized, ugly clothes into a garbage bag. I cleared out all those high-calorie, sinful snacks. I cleaned this tiny space which had held all my pain and humiliation until it was spotless. It felt like performing a ceremony, to bid farewell to the past. My parents didn't ask much. They simply silently stayed by my side. They accompanied me to eat, accompanied me to walk, and accompanied me as I readjusted to this world. Their love was like the gentlest medicine. Little by little, it healed the wounds in my heart. 1 month later, my weight was completely restored to 105 pounds in my mind. That cold mechanical voice rang out for the last time. Ding. The system has been unbound successfully. Wishing you a pleasant life. Then came complete, eternal silence. It left that devilish system which brought me endless hell and also enabled me to complete my ultimate revenge. It had finally disappeared from my life completely. I stood on the scale and looked at that number, one I hadn't seen in a long time, and 105. I smiled from the bottom of my heart. I smiled. The storm on the internet gradually subsided as well. Zhao Chen's company officially announced bankruptcy liquidation. Wang Kai was sentenced to 10 years for multiple crimes combined. A business legend had completely fallen into the dust of history. As for Zhou Chen, that once glamorous big-eating live streamer, she lay forever in the hospital bed of that upscale nursing home. I heard that her parents sold the company and the house, just to barely cover her exorbitant medical expenses. They will use the rest of their lives to atone for their daughter's crimes. This may be the best outcome. Everyone has received the punishment they deserve. As for me, I became someone who lived only in legends. Some said I was a pitiful fool betrayed by my best friend. Some said I was a witch who used mysticism to take revenge. Some said I was a scheming who would stop at nothing to stir up hype and claw my way to the top. People said all sorts of things, but I no longer cared. I uninstalled all of my social media apps. I changed my phone number. I completely withdrew from that noisy fake world. I began to plan my life anew. I used all my savings along with my parents' support to take over a small flower shop in the city center. I liked the feeling of being surrounded by flowers. Their lives, though short-lived, but every day they struggled to grow wildly toward the sunlight, just like me now. On the day the flower shop opened, the sun is shining brightly. I stood at the entrance in a white dress, welcoming the first customer. It was a very beautiful little girl. In her hand, she was holding a cone of ice cream. She saw me and smiled sweetly. "Sis, you're so beautiful." I was taken aback. Then I smiled. "Too. Thank you. You're very cute. Too." I pulled out the most beautiful pink rose from the bucket of flowers and gave it to her. Watching her back, my heart was utterly calm. I knew that new flowers in my life had already begun to bloom. Slowly the past is already dead, and I run from today on I have been reborn after hearing the story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.